Welcome, everybody, to tonight's coverage of the AGL. We are in the final week here before we get into the playoffs, and we've got an exciting matchup for you tonight. The top of the standings battle for sole possession of first place. It is Conduit Esports Phoenix, and it is CB Rangers. I am Brittany, and joining me tonight over to that side of me. Damn it, it's getting wrong every time. It's Quax. How you doing tonight, Quax?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to see both of these teams face off, and I feel like they haven't quite had as much of a challenge as they've had with each other yet. I feel like both of these teams, we talked about it before the game even began. This is definitely going to be the toughest these are definitely going to be the toughest teams that each of them have faced, right? I think that none of these teams have been particularly challenged. I think maybe the only challenge for both these teams has been Clown Gaming IT, who is also in their division. But with the exception of that team, I feel like it's been mostly a cakewalk for both these teams. So I definitely think whoever wins this series is going to be the undisputed best team in their league.
Yeah, it is worth mentioning again. Top of the standings matchup. Both of these teams are 5-1 right now in their side of the bracket in the industrial conference of our league. This winter split. As we are already getting through the ban phase, we do see the Amumu, the Trundle, and the Aurelian Soul are all banned away by Conduit Esports Phoenix, and CB Rangers not wanting to let any of these bot lane picks through. They're going to take away the Yumi, the Zeri, and finally grab that Silas. Make sure that doesn't get on the table.
Yeah, I definitely agree. CBR are definitely putting a lot of focus here on this bot lane. We talked about it before broadcast, but we really want important Smokia is to the success of CPX on this team. On paper, this guy has one of the highest KDAs in the entirety of AGL, 6.44 on average, which is incredibly high. Has the highest, as probably one of the best ADCs in all of AGL, just across the board, a stats monster, and I definitely can see CBR just trying to focus that down as we do see the first set of picks come in here. The Zac followed by the Alistar and the Vigar. What do you make of this, Brittany?
This is the Alistar is, I think, just comfort for Trudavagel. Trudavagel being the substitute support for CB Rangers, stepping in for their not the substitute support for Rangers. It's the substitute support for Conduit Esports Phoenix. It's going to be CB Rangers taking that pick away from him. And Vigar is just one of the best picks on the patch right now. An incredibly strong scaling mage, recently got buffed in terms of range. In terms of damage, overall is just one of the safest and best scaling picks that you can have, either in the mid lane or in the bot lane. If they do want to combo that with the Alistar, it does have that flexibility. So we'll have to see what they do with that one, as Conduit Esports is going to lock in the Jinx and the Thresh. Again, a very safe bottom lane combination, something that's going to get them scaling, something that's going to get them moving into that late game alongside that Zac.
Yup, and you can see that both these teams are going for kind of a similar draft plan here as the game comes to the draft comes to its halfway point. We can see they're focusing on the jungler and then probably the bot lane. Obviously, Vigar has that flexibility here, and in these bans, we can definitely see both these teams are trying to go for these top laners. I do believe CBR have quite a bit of experience here on this Mordekaiser, so definitely wise of CPX to ban that away. And Olaf is definitely one of CZ's biggest comfort picks. We talked about this as well, but CZ is probably one of the biggest reasons for CPX's success here. It is an incredibly efficient lane bully, has champs like Olaf, Camille, can play a ton of tanks too, as we see the Ornn banned away as well. Has a 5.88 KDA, which is the highest across all top laners in AGL. So I definitely can see CBR trying to respect that fact and really trying to drive home how important it is to ban away CZ in the series.
Yeah, it looks like that despite all of the focus on the jungle and the mid lane for the first half of the ban phase, we are stepping heavily into these top laner pools for the second ban phase. Like you were talking about, the Olaf, the Ornn, the Mordekaiser, the Jax, all of these bullying top laners, these scaling picks, these ones that can really dominate a laning phase on their own, taken away. And CB Rangers are actually just going to grab the Gnar for themselves. They're going to keep the flexibility on that Vigar until absolutely necessary and just grab the blind pick top laner to try and disable CZ as much as possible.
Yup, and we can see here that CPX appear to have forgotten to pick their 4th champion.
I'm sure we'll get an
And
update in the
I'm
client at some
seeing,
point.
yup, I'm getting an update in the client that it is actually a Gwen pick here for the side of CPX, followed by a Seraphine to round out the comp here of CPX. So that will be a Seraphine mid lane, which is not particularly.
It's another unique pick for CPX as well for their mid laner. The Trash Panda has gotten a lot of very different and unique picks in his pool, so we'll have to see how he pilots the Seraphine in that particular regard. And CB Rangers, speaking of unique picks, their mid laner Barak has not repeated a champion throughout the entire split and is going to keep that trend up as they're going to lock into Talia for themselves in that mid lane.
Yeah, I can see where CBR kind of coming from. You can definitely see what their game plan is here as we finish out the draft. The Gnar ultimate into the Talia wall, into just overall a lot of grounding CC. Alistar, the Vigar stun, the Wukong knockup. Basically a CC city here and a team fighting behemoth of a comp for CBR, really driving home the focus on that scaling and on that late game that they seem to really like to play. CBR have a very methodical late game style that they have adapted throughout their entire regular season. Usually, at least lately for that matter, a lot of their games have gone into the late 30s, even 40-minute markers. And most of the time they've come out with a win. They really like to play these large scaling comps that just can decimate team fights here in this late game.
Yeah, and I really like both of the compositions from these teams. I do think if I'm looking across the board, both the teams actually, surprisingly enough, I think are lacking a little bit in physical damage. CB Rangers has a little bit more with the Wukong and the Gnar, but for Conduit Esports Phoenix, they're really just relying on Jinx getting ahead, getting to that 2-3 item point, starting to get her scaling on, because otherwise they are fully magic damaged. Remember that the link spot is a Gwen, so the Gwen, the Seraphine, and the Zac is a really, really magic damage heavy composition. And Mercury Treads already has great value into Seraphine, into Thresh. So it's going to be hard to not to say like, oh yeah, CB Rangers, there's not going to be like, there's going to be a Mercury Tread on pretty much anybody that you can imagine it on. Maybe even like the Talia as well.
Yeah, and I can definitely see that CPX are going to try and shut this game down early. While they do also have a scaling comp, a lot of CPX's strength comes in the fact that they are a very early game team. They love taking those heralds. They love taking those first towers. They're one of the leading teams in first towers and in heralds for that matter. If they manage to get an early lead, the game becomes basically free for them. They have won every single game where they've gotten a solid lead. And goal difference at 15 is almost always up for all of their players. So I'm curious to see this kind of clashing of playstyles for both of these teams, because as we head here into playoffs, because this is the last week, I would like to remind Twitch chat and the audience that this is the last week before playoffs start here, that this will kind of be the dominant factor and what a lot of teams who are going to be looking at this VOD are going to be scouting for. How can we counter this early game style of play? How can we counter this late game style of play? Or whatever team kind of comes out victorious here. I can see a lot of other teams maybe trying to adapt here going into playoffs. So I'm curious to see how each team is going to adjust.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting potential for this first game already. We've got some very unique picks. That Vigar, really interesting to see how that one's going to work out in the bottom lane. As we just jump into this first game, I know early on before the broadcast, we were talking about our predictions for the series. We both expected to go to 3 games, as this is going to be a very tough matchup for both of these teams. We were both saying that we were pretty confident that Conduit Esports Phoenix would come out ahead. But given these drafts, has that changed your mind at all in this first game? Do you think CB Rangers are going to be able to take it, or are you still sticking strong with your Conduit Esports?
Well, I definitely think Zac kind of sticks out like a sore thumb here in this comp. I think that CPX have drafted themselves a decently late game comp, and while Zac does have his uses in the late game, being that tanky frontline that's just simply unkillable, I permaban that champion, by the way. I think that a lot of his strength comes in that early game, right? That E being able to slingshot from miles away, and we all know just how difficult it is to avoid those ganks here on the Zac. So if I'm CBR here, I'm definitely thinking that we have to watch out for the Zac, or it's going to be a much more difficult game. With that being said, I do think CBR have drafted themselves an adequate amount of counters, right? Wukong can cancel the engage from Zach. He can cancel a lot of but he can basically disengage the entire fight. They have a lot of disengage. I think CBR has a really good comp that just says no to any kind of engage that CPX want to have, right? Vigar Cage, Wukong R, Gnar R. These are all things that are great at disengaging fights that they don't feel comfortable with and great at zoning for that matter. So I think that if CBR know how to play the comp, they probably could come out on top of this game, just exploiting the fact that I think CPX's comp is a little bit worse.
Yeah, I think the comps are really close as well. I really like your analysis there. We are going to be taking it to a short break while we wait for the spectator delay to come through. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for game 1 of CBR versus CPX. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, to our coverage tonight of CPX versus CBR, that top of the standings match up. I am still Bo3, and I'm still joined by Quacks, and we are here in game 1. We are loaded on to Summoner's Rift. Looking across the board at runes and summoner spells, everything looks fairly normal. I will point out, CBR, the triple teleport, as we got a little bit of good manners in the mid lane.
We can see both teams going for that typical 5-stack here. They're dancing in the mid lane, Black Eyed Peas and Nation just having fun. You can tell that both of these teams, they're familiar with each other, even in AGL off the screen and behind the scenes. Both of these teams respect each other and are probably the two that fill our chat the most with messages. So can definitely see that they're both just chilling as we have, again, just a typical 5-stack. Old Man Genetics coming in with a bit of foul play there with that Q on the Vigar hitting Trudabagel as he's forced to recall. But yeah, like you said, both teams have pretty standard runes for their champions. I will highlight that Burak chose to go that unsealed spellbook here on the Talia, which, while it is a normal set of runes to take, it's definitely not the only thing she can take. She can take things like the First Strike. She can even take things like the Dark Harvest. So I'm curious to see how she's going to utilize the use of the various amounts of summoner spells you can get with that keystone.
Yeah, it really is all about like having like an extra heal in the mid and late game, or a ghost, or even just like not being forced to only have teleport in the laning phase, where you have that extra kill pressure with something like Ignite or Exhaust. It's the versatility that really brings the power in that rune. And also, speaking of runes, I do also want to point out that Old Man Genetics has opted for the First Strike as opposed to something like the Airy or the Dark Harvest, another damage rune that Vigar might go for. I do like the First Strike in this particular matchup because you know Jinx and Thresh aren't going to be providing a ton of pressure in the early game. They really are the kind of lane that wants to wait for at least one item before they make something happen, and Vigar really loves just stacking AP on these shorter range champions. So while Jinx is stuck farming in her pew-pew shooty minigun mode, Vigar can take advantage of that with the extra range on his Q and W, grab some extra First Strike, grab some extra AP, feel a lot better in the laning phase.
Yep, and we can see both junglers here basically are on the same timer. Black Eyed Peas and Nation just both opting for that bot to top clear on their champions. I would probably predict that Nation would want to cut across and potentially look for an early gank, utilizing the power of that Zac to be able to just jump from across the bush. Now, I want to keep in mind that Zac's E level 1 isn't that powerful. It's nothing to be like scared of. You can see him on the ward, and he doesn't have the range to basically jump over a wall where you just simply can't see him. He doesn't have that angle yet. But I do expect that Nation will try to put on some early pressure here, because if he's smart, he probably knows that it's going to be difficult for them to win that 2v2, because Wukong does quite a bit of damage, and with Gnar being ranged, it becomes more difficult for someone like Zac, who lacks a lot of early game damage, to have his agency here in the top lane. As we see both junglers on that top crab here, Nation doesn't have cryo.
Ooh, a nice stun on the bottom lane. Spooky is going to take a little bit of damage. The traps are going to keep Peacemaker away for a little bit, but he will still look for the engage and take a hefty chunk of his health bars. We do have that skirmish going on the top side. It looks like both of the junglers just saw each other on the wards, stood around menacingly, and just said, all right, we'll walk away this time.
Yeah, we can definitely see some trading here in the bot lane. I definitely, I think it's worth noting that Old Man Genetics, on this Vigar, it's a really good pick here. You can see the amount of zoning that it does to a team like CPX here, who are, for all intents and purposes, rather immobile. As Nation going in.
Plastic slingshot is going to force the flash out of Krama. Really nice placement. I don't know how he managed to get around the wards. I wasn't looking at the minimap too closely there, but that was really, really nice placement, and that's going to force an early flash from the Gnar. Really big cooldown to burn away from that champ.
Yeah, and that's actually really good on the side of Kramen here, because now he's forced to clear this whole wave without flash, and he's forced to do it while on a timer. CCI is basically just going to be able to push in this wave and get a free reset off of that flash being burned, because he's in no threat to get killed by Krama here. And so Krama is, yeah, he's basically forced to clear out this whole wave before resetting, and that could definitely set him behind or burn his TP, whereas CZ could be completely fine after that.
Yeah, CC should just be able to get a very nice recall here, pick up whatever items he wants to grab, and just walk back to lane, because it's going to take Krama so much time, especially on this miniature Gnar, to get the wave into tower. I do also want to point out on that first recall that CZ has opted for Sheen. Is this the mythical Lichbane Rush Gwen that I've been hearing talks of in solo queue?
I heard a little bit about the Lichbane Rush onto the Gwen, so I am curious to see how good CZ is on it, if he does end up building that, which, I mean, he built the Sheen, so he probably will here. But I also think it's worth noting, Black Eyed Peas has yet to take a reset here, whereas Nation already has, you know, getting that blasting one. So I'm curious to see what Black Eyed Peas hopes to accomplish while staying out, as we see them posturing for this dragon, this early Infernal Soul.
Yeah, they grabbed the early ward on it, so there is no vision for CPX as they are just going to take this away. The pressure coming out from this bottom lane, like you were talking about, the zoning that comes through from just Vygar existing in his form. Zach is going to be able to chest the brush, jump over the pit just menacingly, but was a little bit too early and without vision. Nice Gnar from Krama on the top side, just abusing the fact that he has level 6 and just getting aggressive onto CZI. This is exactly how you should be playing Gnar in matchups like this. Like, look at the size of this wave that CZ has to try and clean up. I think Cranbag maybe could have stuck around a little bit, tried to pressure a little bit more. They did know that Zach was on that bottom side of the map. So it's just going to be on CZ to pick up all of that wave under tower, grab as much of that XP and gold as you can, and try and even out the CS differential.
Yeah, and I also want to note that Black Eyed Peas opted for the Gust Walker hatchling rather than getting the typical Moss Stomper seedling that you want to get on the Wukong. I've seen this a little bit in pro play. Most Wukongs opt to get that blue smite rather than get the green pet. And it's for good reason. Blue pet is generally... Oh, hang on.
Pound. Smokey is going to get ignited. Nice play away by Trudabagel to make sure that the Alistar can't get that extra stun. But Smokey is going to lose about 3/4 of their HP. Managed to keep all of their summoner spells, surprisingly enough. But there is still threat from that Alistar with the flash, and Jinx does not have any potions, which means that this is a much more dangerous situation to be in.
Yeah, Nation, you can see in that top lane, Nation is posturing for a gank here, but Krama wary of the power of that Zac, knowing that he can just jump whenever he feels like it, because now he's level 5, he has 3 points in that E, so it's going to start to go really far as Black Eyed Peas taking a little bit of trading here.
Yeah, looked to get aggressive in the mid lane, but didn't pop the Cyclone just yet. Knew that Nation was on the top side of the map, and I think in a 2 versus 2 at this point in the game, it is fairly close to Leah just really sitting on that lost chapter, so it is even in terms of items in the mid lane. Both of them just sitting on the tier plus the lost chapter, trying to get as much mana generation and wave clear as possible. Surprisingly enough, actually, now that both of these champions are level 6, neither one of them has managed to make a roam play happen yet, and that is really where the strength of Talia comes in, and I think arguably also where the strength of Seraphine will come in, as she has that really good wave clear, and that encore, when she gets that level 6 point, is really the power point of this champion.
Yup, and we can see that CPX are posturing here and probably going to take this Herald as Trudabagel was up to roam, but Peacemaker wasn't there as well. So I'm curious to see what lane CPX are thinking about placing this Herald in, because neither of these teams have a lot of turret taking potential here. Gwen, obviously, I would say is probably the best at that, but I can't really see any other lane receiving this Herald other than bot lane, but it seems like both junglers have, for the most part, left that lane alone. So it's definitely going to have to be a pivot in playstyle if they want to maximize the efficiency of this Herald that they've just taken. Or else you're going to be getting it for CZ here, which isn't the most effective on the side of CPX, but I could definitely see it happening.
Yeah, just try and extend that gold lead between these two top laners. If you can set Gnar behind in terms of gold and get him a little bit more in a disadvantageous position in that laning phase, you'll be feeling a lot better as CPX, but your real carry in this game is going to be Smokia. We talked about it in the draft, just the stats that this player is able to put out on all of the picks. The amount of resources that the CPX squad allocates to him really shows how much they trust this player to carry, and as we see right here, like you were talking about, Nation has made his way to the bottom lane. I don't think they know he's here. Old Man Genetics, they're going to look for a gank. The Herald down. Flash away from Old Man Genetics just to make sure. Now Peacemaker is stuck, but he does have that level 6. He's got the Unbreakable Will. He's very, very tanky. And first blood is going to go to the Primordial Burst from Old Man Genetics, and now suddenly Trudabagel is in trouble, looking to get bursted out here. Oh, nice 3-man pulverized from Peacemaker. Where's the follow-up damage? Where's the extra damage coming from the rest of the CBR squad? Trash Panda is zoning out these two mages, trying to get any damage in as much as possible. Nation still has that passive on. Trudabagel tanking
Black Eyed Peas.
Now Black Eyed Peas has made his way down. He's going to flash forward. He's looking for
no.
But he's just a little bit out of range. The Cyclone will pop the passive of the Zac. The Cades will find Trash Panda in the mid. Pops him down. Old Midget next is going to grab the 1-1, and Black Eyed Peas will pick up Nation. It's a bloodbath in the bottom lane, and CBR come out ahead.
CPX way overstaying their welcome here up in this bot lane. They had the pick, they had the kill here onto Peacemaker, but they just decided for more. They greeded for more, and it ultimately was going to downfall Smokey. What are you doing?
The trade though does pick up Barack, but immediately goes down. Lost his flash for that, but at the very least made it a 1-for-1.
Yeah, and we talked about this in draft about how important it is for Smokey to be ahead. He is their only source of physical damage on the entire squad of CPX, so making sure he's ahead is vital. And with him dying here, I don't know if that was worth it, to be honest, because now CBR are just going to take this dragon, and they'll be up 2 dragons at 11.5 minutes.
Yeah, Nation is nearby, but Peacemaker doing a great job of just making sure that he can't get anywhere near the pit. Nation's going to pull him back, but with the cage as well, there's just no spot for Nation to jump in. Nicely played by CBR, and they're going to find themselves a 2-0 dragon lead very early into this game.
Yeah. Started out as a relatively even game, has now turned into a gold lead at the top side.
The needlework is popped, flash away from Krama, but CZI finds the solo kill.
CZ with the beautiful solo kill. Krama not respecting the damage this Gwen can bring on. That Sheen is, I guess it's really coming in handy here as he gets a really convincing lead for himself now, as top lane is basically in favor of CPX. They already had a decent lead here in the bot lane. Now top lane is the same.
Unadvised, Trudebagel's gonna get the shield on himself, and he's just gonna get stunned up under tower. Peacemaker with the supportal combat. A little bit of a unadvised trade from the bottom lane of CPX, and now Smokia just gonna get fully dove on, but Rock slides in on the rocks, finds that kill for himself. And this is a disaster of an early game for CPX.
CBR with the superior roams, the superior mechanics, and overall the superior team play, doing an incredible job of roaming around the map when they're supposed to, taking advantages after they already gave themselves an advantage, you know, furthering that lead that they got for themselves, getting a pick, going into Dragon, basically getting really good amounts of kill ratio.
You're welcome. A really nice bar to bop away Nation and CZI. And speaking of CZI, I do also want to point out we were a little incorrect actually about the itemization choice, as that Sheen didn't go into the Lichbane first item. That is an Iceborne Gauntlet on this Gwen.
Yeah, CZ is probably going to rewatch this VOD and facepalm the times we said that it was going to be a Lichbane. So CZ, CPX, if you're watching this VOD, just apologies to you guys. Yeah, it's an Iceborne, we were wrong. So that is kind of an interesting pickup here, as I'm not sure I agree with that. The Iceborne gives you a decent amount of frontline potential here as the Gwen, but I would argue that the Thresh is enough, as hang on, CZ might be in trouble.
Just pops, a Peacemaker is going to get that ground pound combo. CZI under tower, but it's not enough. Kram is going to find revenge. Nice roam from the jungle and the support of CBR. Get their top laner back out onto the map.
Peacemaker doing an absolute beautiful job here on this Alistar, setting up plays, setting up picks, going around the map when he knows he's supposed to, as Old Man Genetics is 3-0, already has an ROA here on this Vigar, and is basically under no threat of kill. I say that,
he's ignited under tower. The Primordial Burst is going to be used as well, but on the top side, Nation getting aggressive onto Krama. He's got those hyper procs though. He's moving pretty quick, and now Peacemaker's up here to support the top laner. The Nation expecting some shenanigans is not going to overchase Krama. And then the bottom side, Old Man Genetics held onto that flash and somehow survived. So I thought it was a potential caster curse, but you were right. Old Man Genetics is untouchable on the bottom side of this map.
Yeah, and we can see that teleport here coming in handy as we have reached 14 minutes, and that unleashed teleport has been unlocked for not one, not two, 3 members of CBR. So we can see that coming in handy here, as he didn't really miss any minions despite getting traded on. He missed basically he didn't miss his flash. He still has that, as you said. And yeah, the teleport really coming in clutch here, as there's not a lot that this bot lane seems to be able to do with Old Man Genetics just having such a lead here over Smokey and Trudabagel here in the bot lane.
Yeah, this is really the advantage of some of these safe mages that Smokey is going to get engaged on. He has the cleanse. He just needs to walk through the Vigar wall, but they're going to look to try and trade back onto Old Man Genetics, but Smokey has taken so much damage. The teleport in from Trash Panda to keep the team alive. A huge two-man encore! Beautiful play from CPX. Protects their AD carry and get him some gold on the back end.
Wow, what a good response here from the side of CPX. The teleport plus Nation's arrival just absolutely spells doom for the mid and ADC of CBR as they both get taken down here. Shutdown gold going over to, who did that shutdown gold go over to? The Jinx, which is really big, honestly, as now Smokia able to pick up that Kraken Slayer, get his mythic, and this Jinx, I think, is probably now on the board, able to be unlocked, and I wouldn't be surprised if, now that that bot turret has been taken, we see the Jinx roam around the map.
CZ is going to pop the needlework at the top side, but I don't know if this is the trade you want to take. The Gnar to the wall, the Boulder's there as well, the healing coming through from CZ, the battle is close. CZ is trying to get as much healing off of this Conqueror and these needlework procs as much as possible. Cram is not able to find the lethal. CZI burning the ghost and just barely going to stay alive as now we got an engage in the mid lane. Black Eyed Peas going to get knocked up by Nation. These elastic slingshot is going to pull him back as well. The clone, or the Cyclone is going to get popped with a nice hook from Trudabagel. Should seal the fate of Black Eyed Peas, but he's got his flash. He's going to be able to escape. The flash in front of the Super Mega Death Rocket. Peacemaker playing in full protection. Now we've got to trade the top side as well. CZI, it's the lethal in the 1v1. Krama couldn't get the auto attack through that hallowed mist, and CZI finds it. Now we've got the fight in the Dragon Pit. The cage just going to keep Trudabagel knocked up. Peacemaker being the frontliner. Unbreakable Will, he's in the front line. He's doing so much damage on the Alistar. Nation's finally going to go down. The Dragon's down to 1,000. It's going to be taken by Trudabagel. He finds it somehow. The smite is not there for either side. Trash Panda is going to confirm it for CPX, and what a bloodbath in the Dragon Pit.
Well, that was an absolute blunder from both teams, not respecting the zoning, and the power of that Vigar cage ultimately spelled doom for the players of CPX, but a beautiful turnaround, ultimately with maybe a little bit of luck, gonna be honest, on the side of Trash Panda, stealing away as he's going in for Genetics.
He's looking for the solo kill. He's going to flash out of the way of the Vigar cage. Vigar has missed that W as well. The Scorch coming through. The damage. Trash Panda putting the team on his back. He's looking for kills.
4-1 here on this Seraphine here in this mid lane, as we do see the Leandri's Anguish coming in clutch in that 1v1 against Old Man Genetics. Genetics set a little bit behind here with these last two deaths from him. He started out as 3-0 just a few minutes ago and is now 4-2. Yes, he does have the Rod of Ages. Yes, he is scaling, but it seems like the side of CPX have capitalized on the over-aggression that Genetics has wanted to portray here on the Vigar. The mistakes and the missteps here from that bot lane and from that mid lane on the side of CBR have cost them a little bit of leeway here in this game, and what started out as a pretty solid lead for CBR is now kind of an even game, as we do see the gold difference evened up a little bit. It is slightly in CBR's favor, but it's definitely better than what they were a few minutes ago.
Yeah, 500 gold is the difference right now, as the kill score is even, the heralds are even, the dragons are practically even, and the towers just barely in CPX's favor. This is a ridiculous spot for this game to be at the 20-minute mark. We've got the 2-item Seraphine, we've got CZI, who looks like he's going to go for that Nashor's Tooth second, but, you know, just in case he opts for, like, a rapid fire or Runeans, I'm going to say maybe he's going for the Nashors with those two, with the double daggers. We were hoping for some exciting matchups in this top of the standings battle, and I think we have been delivered what might be our best series yet, and it's only game one.
Yeah, 100%. Both these teams look really evenly matched in playstyle and in overall understanding of the game. They know how to rotate. They know how to make a good lead better. They know how to basically lick their wounds and keep on moving despite losing a tower or maybe a kill. They know what they're doing, and it shows in their play here. Now, as we have a little bit of break here in this game, I want to highlight what I think CBR need to do if they want to continue to excel this game forward, as they do still have a slight gold lead over the side of CPX here up in that top of the screen. I definitely think that breaking this top lane, which appears to be what they're doing, is definitely play number one, as CZ might be in trouble.
Knocked into the wall, bopped up, knocked up, and Nation is here to support his top laner. CZI is so tanky with his Iceborne Gauntlet. He doesn't take any damage, but Krama is finally going to find the lethal on him. True to Bagel now trying to get Nation, now pops the box down just to try and deny any movement, but Old Man Genetics is here. A nice flash out of the cage. Smokia has rotated up. Nation's looking for the re-engage, finds a two-man knockup of the Old Man Genetics in the Black Eyed Peas. They're looking for the damage onto this Vigar. The Seraphine ulti comes through. They're going to burst him down. Krama will be next to fall. It's 2 more kills for Trash Panda. Oh my god, we've got a series on our hands.
See, turned around what was initially a pick onto CZ, as they managed to get a few kills in return after the death of their Gwen. And in response, it also seems that CBR have taken the bot lane turret. I was kind of questioning why Burok didn't teleport, given that he does have it here for this fight, but I think the outer turret is definitely a good play, as CBR still have 1 dragon over, and making sure that you're even on the bot lane here in tempo, getting that turret so that you can push the minion waves in further. I definitely think it's a good response, despite what happened top lane. So I think the game is still relatively even on both sides, despite the trading. But I'm curious to see what they will do for this dragon fight, as we do have our Cloud Dragon spawning in 30 seconds here, as both teams looking for that vision.
Ooh, True to Bagel doesn't get the flay over the wall there onto Peacemaker. I think that may have been actually a flash force or potentially some kind of engage if the flay comes through there, but just delays it a little bit. Is going to allow Peacemaker to walk away. The Mercury Treads putting in work for him. We do have the dragon coming up in just about 10 seconds. Again, it is Cloud Dragons, it's Cloud Soul. Everybody's like, wah, it's not super exciting. This is the highest win rate dragon, apparently. So obviously, every team should be fighting and contesting for these Cloud Dragons, no matter what. And I think that's what we're going to see as Conduit Esports Phoenix has the first early rotate in this pit. They're looking to just maintain vision control, try and sweep out all of the vision that CBR has. CZI, nice ward clear on the bottom side. Nation is looking for something. He's going to get stunned up, take a little bit of damage, but he's got that passive, a nice lantern away from the baby cage, not letting Old Man Genetics stun up the jungler. And now CBR have just managed to walk their way into this pit. We're looking to just have a straight up 5 versus 5 here. Barak is on the side, waiting with that wall on that flank angle. As Peacemaker is looking for the engage. He's going to flash forward, get the ground pound, trying to get as much damage in as possible. He's unstoppable. He's unbreakable. He's so tanky on this Alistar. Now Kramazine with the Nord. He's getting so much damage in as well. The damage is coming in through both sides. Peacemaker somehow survives it on 1 HP, and CZI left all alone on the backside. Same as Barak. It's just a 1-for-1 trade. And now health bar is really low for both sides, but one side has the Seraphine and the other does not, which means I think this is a winning trade for Conduit Esports Phoenix.
Yeah, we can see both teams managed to get 1 member here, but we can see the teleports are all up for the side of CBR here, so I would expect them to probably get that TP here. As we see Krama
picked up, deleted. Nation hops over the wall. Trash Panda is nearby. He's looking to just get some poke in. Maybe another miracle dragon steal if they can start to get some vision in this pit. It's down to 7k. It looks like CBR expecting it. They're going to pull it out as Nation is just going to zoom across the pit and grab that vision for a second. Love that little bit of Zac Tech as Trash Panda is just getting some poke out of it. It looks like they are going to opt to leave this dragon for CB Rangers. Let them have it. I think that's probably the right decision in this case, as CB Rangers will just pick up their 3rd dragon of the game.
Yup, that is going to be a Cloud Soul for the side of CB Rangers here. And like you said, Cloud Soul, highest win rate in all of AGL. Definitely an important dragon to have statistically, but let's look at the comp here. Let's look at the context to what their Cloud Soul could mean. Cloud Soul, for those of you that don't know, gives you some slight movement speed, but it also gives you cooldown reduction, I believe, correct?
No, I think they actually did remove that. It is just a flat amount of movement speed all the time, always, and then a bigger burst when you get the actual ultimate proc on the Cloud Soul. Otherwise, it gives out-of-combat movement speed and slow reduction, I believe, is the stat.
Yeah, well, I think that slow reduction is definitely beneficial, as if you look at the side of CBR, No, CPX. They have a lot of slow as Trudavagel.
Rock has to flash and ghost away. It's going to burn a lot of summoner spells. Nation looking for his way in as well. That's two important summoners burned away. They are going to get the stun onto Smokia, but the trap's just making sure that Old Man Genetics can't get close. Can we get a stat check on Vigar really quickly? How much AP is he sitting on right now?
Currently sitting on 195 stacks here. So that's 195 bonus AP here for the Vigar. In total, he has 547.
Ooh, looking for the engage. Nation has the Let's Bounce, is getting in. Old Man Genetics with a huge Seraph shield. Nation can't find the burst. He gets bursting on himself, but CZI is going to find the damage on Old Man Genetics and gets immediately picked up by Barak in return. Black Eyed Peas has made his way into a fight. It's a double kill for Peacemaker, fighting the last hits in these fights. Krambe is here with Mega. Doesn't have access to that Gnar anymore, but he's still a beefy frontline body, as they are just going to be able to disengage away from it. It's a 1-for-2, but it somehow feels like Conduit Esports Phoenix still has the tempo.
Yeah, I really agree with CBR though. I want to highlight something for the side of Black Eyed Peas here. It's usually, it's common nowadays where Wukong will usually go Mythic into Black Cleaver, but I think Black Cleaver really doesn't have a lot of efficiency in this game. Gnar is the only other member of CBR that has any sort of physical damage, and while Gnar can do damage, obviously he built the Trinity Force instead of something like a tank item. That's it. That's literally all they have. The other damage dealers are all AP. Talia and Vigar both deal magic damage, so the efficiency and usefulness of this Black Cleaver is toned down significantly, as I would definitely expect Black Eyed Peas to opt for a...
You know what would have been really good here? Do you know what would have been actually really good into this Conduit Esports Phoenix composition?
I think I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and say it anyway.
It's the Kempfung Chainsword. As much as we ragged on it in our last couple of broadcasts from being a really bad item into Zac Seraphine, that's a lot of value.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely think Kempunk would have been a really useful item here in this game, as if you look at the side of CBR, they don't really have a lot of champions that can build any kind of healing cut or healing reduction without kind of sacking their build here. Alistar doesn't really benefit that much from a I'm blanking on it.
From the Thornmail, especially not in this game with all of the magic damage from Conduit Esports.
He doesn't whatsoever benefit from a Thornmail in this game. He doesn't even benefit from the healing reduction item that builds into it. He basically, if the support can't build healing reduction, then it kind of has to be here on the jungler. I can see Burak maybe as like a last item building that Oblivion Orb, but it's going to be a very long time before he gets into that sixth item here, as we do see Najin pulling off shenanigans with the Zac, stealing away that crab.
Yeah, I do actually... Healing reduction is going to be really important for how these fights go. If you're a fan of LS and you've seen how much he's talked about Seraphine just as a champion in general, you know how much value she gets out of just pressing W in a team fight and getting that double cast, fully healing your team essentially with that empowered spell cast. It's a really, really powerful team fight tool. Obviously, you're not using that double cast on damage from the Q or on the extra CC on that E, but it is still really, really nice to have your Zac, who has Radiant Virtue as well, get that extra chunk of HP, stay alive for longer, make sure your Jinx is allowed to play the game for longer. Your Gwen, who does have a tank item in inventory, play the game in her style for longer. As we do see, CB Rangers right now are actually just hanging out in the bottom side right now. They're looking for any sort of potential pick on this red buff, trying to make a play on the bottom side.
CBX
on wards against the Phoenix. They're going to start the Baron.
Yeah, we can see the teleports flying out. Code red, sound the alarms is what CBR are saying here in these comms, as CBX making a very intelligent play. Yeah, they're actually making a really intelligent play here to try and trade this Baron for Dragon, but if you look on the side here of CBR, they don't really have any players or champions that can take this dragon very quickly. Talia here is in the bot side, but it takes her forever to take the dragon. now has kind of lost his ability to take dragons as Black Eyed Peas getting engaged on here, but it misses.
Yeah, does use that warrior trickster, gets himself away, and Gnar normally would be able to solo the dragon pretty efficiently, but once he gets into that mega, that dragon does slow down, as we do see Gnar and Talia on the dragon right now. It does signal for the rest of Conduit Esports Phoenix to start turning back towards this Baron and try and getting aggressive on it again, try and get them to peel off of that dragon soul. They are going to be able to take it, though, and that means that Talia, with the teleport, will be able to get back to this fight very fast. She's got the Weaver's Wall as well, a beautiful spot on it, a nice encore. But Balrog has the stopwatch as well. He's so tanky, but where's the rest of the damage from CBR? The damage is not there. Conduit Esports Phoenix has kind of away perfectly, and they're looking to get aggressive. Smokey is flashing forward. He is getting aggressive on this pick. Doesn't even need to burn his cleanse on the Vygar cage. A beautiful disengage from Conduit Esports Phoenix, and they're going to be able to walk away with the Baron intact.
Yeah, absolute beautiful team fight on the side here of Conduit Esports Phoenix, as the Gwen really starting to get that spike here with that, as Old Man Genetics might be in trouble here. On the wrong side of the map you are, my friend.
Yeah, he's able to walk towards the bottom side of the map, try and just find a safe spot to recall, see if Snomokia tries to chase him down. I would say that chasing a Vygar is a dangerous proposition if you are an AD carry, but, you know, it's a 4 for nothing in terms of kills, and it's a Baron for Conduit Esports Phoenix when they had just given up Dragon Soul. That's the exact trade they needed to make in that case.
Yeah, for sure. And CZ, he's really starting to scale into the Gwen of a nightmare, as he does have that Nashor's Tooth in tow along with the Iceborne Gauntlet for survivability. It's just really hard for the side of CBR to break through this front line. They have nothing that can deal with Nasian. They have nothing that can deal with CZ. Like I said, the Black Cleaver is completely useless in this game. They have nothing that can break through that armor, and that magic resist coming in from the side of CPX is really starting to shine through, as yeah, they just can't break through it. They have no damage whatsoever. They have no utility to be able to, they have no champions to be able to utilize this Black Cleaver. No damage coming in through on the side of CBR now, as CPX have basically scaled and peaked as a comp.
Yeah, the Cloud Soul is in inventory for CB Rangers, and it's going to be helpful for them. I think the actual burst of movement speed that they get is really useful for a lot of these champions. It helps Vygar reposition. It helps Talia get to a safe spot in the fight after using that Weaver's Wall. And Wukong especially loves this extra movement speed to make sure that Cyclone is hitting everybody on the map. But like you were talking about, just the itemization choices from CB Rangers. We're seeing a lot of, like, utility items as Nation is going to get caught out here. Pops that Radiant Virtue for himself. The Encore is going to find 2. He's got the passive for himself, and Smokey auto attacking into Black Eyed Peas. He's taking so much damage, but with the Cyclone movement speed, he's able to walk out of it. Smokey is looking to try and get aggressive. The Super Mega Death Rocket only finds the Wukong clone, though. He will finally pick up the Alistair, but that's a 1-for-1 jungler for support. With the Baron buff in inventory for Conduit Esports Phoenix, I think that's a trade you're actually okay with.
Yeah, if I'm CPX here, I am actually pretty satisfied here with that trade, as they're just going to be pushing here into this mid lane, but the old man Genetics, that Vygar cage really starting to come in handy here, as it is on a really low, it's starting to get on a really low cooldown here. And if you're smart as Vygar, pushing against a Vygar is actually really difficult, because his spells are on ridiculously low cooldowns. Keeps dropping them, he can essentially just use them as zone tools throughout the game, just trying to make sure and break your push. So I'm curious to see if Old Man Genetics is going to keep playing Vygar like that, because breaking that push like he just did is exactly how you want to do it. Just casting that E in the middle of the wave, casting those spells, making sure you don't get picked, and just basically doing that on repeat is kind of how you play Vygar in the late game when you're not team fighting. And he's playing this Vygar beautifully, despite the fact that I would say CPX have a lead for themselves now here, with a 2k gold lead here. I would say that Old Man Genetics has been playing this Vygar really well. He played it well in laning phase. He's been playing it well. He's been doing cages that have basically put CPX on the back foot, or put them at a disadvantage in these objective fights, whether it be Dragon, whether it be Herald, whether it be a Baron fight eventually. He's been putting these cages at really advantageous spots for his team to be able to use, and I think that's definitely what CBR want here, as they have a lot of terrain to work with, from the cage to the Talia R to the Gnar R. Yeah,
there's a lot of terrain warping and terrain danger for CPX. And I will say, Smokia has been playing the team fights beautifully. I do actually really like the itemization choice of the rapid fire cannon, as all Jinx needs to get aggressive in a fight and start playing the game that she wants to play is that one takedown. So as long as she's in range for that single auto attack with the rocket plus the rapid fire range, gets that hit as Trash Panda is forced to flash away from the cage. As while we've been talking, the Elder Dragon's timer has ticked down to just about 1 minute before that buff spawns. But yeah, I do like the Jinx itemization here. If she gets that one takedown, starts to get excited, the rest of the fight probably, honestly, doesn't particularly matter. Unless Old Man Genetics and Barrock can get on top of her and delete her, she should just be free firing in fights.
And I think both these teams have to kind of know that whoever wins this dragon fight basically takes the game here. So I kind of am hoping that both these teams will reset at some point and get those elixirs. Those elixirs are ridiculously useful when you know you have one more team fight, you know you have one more skirmish or one more pick. Basically, if it is a one-off type thing, you want those elixirs here in tow, as we can see the bot lane resetting, not getting those elixirs. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I wish they would be a little bit more aware of the power of those, but you know, I digress.
Yeah, the Dragon despawning is about 15 seconds, and it looks like CBR is just giving Conduit Esports Phoenix the control of the pit, as you got about 10 seconds. The Nation is going to look for an engage here. Pull a beautiful encore to walk up the jungler, and the support of CB Rangers. They're just absolutely picked off and deleted. Peacemaker with the Unbreakable Will is super tanky, but Nation will finally lock that one up. There's the one-mo combo of that Gnar and that Talia, but it just does not matter. Old Man Genetics is going to find True to Bagel, but that is just the support of Phoenix, and it looks like Conduit Esports will just be able to turn onto this Elder Dragon with the 2 picks that they got. There is no smite and no real engage anymore for CB Rangers. It is just all Conduit Esports Phoenix, all game here.
Yeah, but we can see they're trying to make something happen here, as Old Man Genetics might be in trouble.
Oh my god! He is inside us! How did he get it? The shutdowns are going to come through for Conduit Esports Phoenix immediately afterwards. But Cram is going to hold on to the Elder Dragon buff, I guess. How did he steal that?
Nation, what are you doing? That is the second time this game that a mid laner has stolen a dragon away from the opposing team that was supposed to get it. As we can see CPX, they're kind of pissed off about that. I wouldn't be surprised, as they're going straight for this Baron. And it looks like they're going to take it before Black Eyed Peas can get there. So a Baron here for CPX, as hold that thought.
It's close by.
Smite steals in a row for the side of CBR, as now they have an Elf and a Baron and a Soul, and what started out as a promising, almost secure game for CPX has now turned into a 50-50 that will probably be determined by one more fight, as Krama still has that Elder Dragon. It's about halfway through for him at this current moment, as I'm in disbelief. How does that happen, Nation? What are you doing?
Oh my god! Oh, a beautiful cage from Old Man Genetics. The burst comes through on the Trash Panda, but he's got the Seraphine healing. Oh, he's gonna get bursted again. Balrog doing plenty of damage. Seraphine already chunked to about a quarter of her HP, and Gnar only finds Nation. This is just the tank. This Zac is so beefy with the aftershock, but Old Man Genetics has found True to Bagel. There's been no resets for Smokia just yet. He's looking for the autos. He finally gets that get excited with CZI picking up that kill. Smokia looking for the aggression into this fight. Encore doesn't find it. Balrog is gonna get the shutdown gold, 900 gold into his pocket, but CZI immediately with the respawn, or immediately with the recompense for himself. Krama has teleported back into this fight, still has that Elder Dragon for a little bit longer. Boom! Nation, and now Krama wants more. He's looking for blood, he's looking for action, but there's not much to be found. The Baron buff is still in inventory for Black Eyed Peas for Krama, and with all of those kills giving over, it's just Smoking and CZI. Suddenly, CB Rangers are back in this game, and it's taking the first inhibitor.
They have the Baron buff, and True to Bagel doesn't spawn for 5 seconds. I think they might honestly be able to end here. Krama does have that ultimate in tow. Old Man Genetics does have that ultimate.
Going in. Beautiful positioning from him. CZI trying to frontline as much as possible. The needlework putting in so much work. True to Bagel finds the hook onto Black Eyed Peas. Beautiful flying 2 to get the reset for Smokey. See, Krama's gonna be forced to run away. The Super Mega Death Dragon is not gonna find its mark, but they find the base defense. Conduit Esports Phoenix are gonna stay alive in this game.
What is this this game pretty. Both these teams making mistakes, but both these teams managing to rectify them immediately after, turning this into basically a bloodbath. We have 45 kills on this game so far in a 40-minute game. Pretty stable, but a lot of kills have happened recently, and what turned out to be a pretty stable game turned out to be an absolute massacre, an absolute bloodbath, as we can see CBR trying everything in their power to stop the push from CPX. That Jinx is finally online, and it's a complete turret monster when she unlocks those rockets, as CPX going for that base, going for that inhib, as the mid inhibs have now both been taken for both teams.
Oh my god. Again, top of the day, we were like, oh man, we're really hoping that this is like an exciting series. This is like the top of the standings matchup. We want this to be good. And these teams have delivered, and we are just in game 1. We have crested 40 minutes, and the gold is practically dead even. At this point in the game, this is usually where we're talking about like, oh yeah, the gold lead is starting to get up to like 4K, 5K, but it doesn't matter as much because players are starting to get to their like 2, 3 item, 4 item power spikes. They're dead even at this point in the game. There is no gold lead to matter. Everybody's hit their item power points. Old Man Genetics is close to getting full build, and Smokia has that Guardian Angel in inventory now, so he is full build. As long as one of these carries survives in the fight and carries it for their team, the game should end.
Yeah, and looking here at Old Man Genetics, I think it is worth noting that he now has 355 stacks, almost 1,000 ability power here on this Vigar, 922 to be precise with you. So I'm curious to see. Yeah, I actually am really curious to see what the priority is going to be here if I'm CBR. Am I going to protect my Vigar to just spam his abilities, or are we going in straight style? Because Krama is actually really strong here for this Gnar. Those ultimates have been key in them winning those fights. So I'm curious to see how they're going to play out this next team fight, as CZ is really strong, and honestly, all these players are really strong. So it will really just come down to what carry gets bursted down first here. And it's going to be between Smokia and Old Man Genetics in these fights. So yeah, definitely pay attention to both these players, as whoever dies between them probably will win their team the game.
Yeah, I don't actually know how I feel about the GA on Smokia. I kind of wish he had gone for something like a Bloodthirster. Despite the nerfs coming towards that item in this late game situation, it's practically untouched, and the item is still really good. Guardian Angel, I think, very oftentimes is kind of a bait item, because if your AD carry is dying that early on into the fight is probably lost anyway. Oh, Trashbeta looks for the flash. Where's the cage? Finds him. He's absolutely deleted. Kramer's gonna go on a killing spree now. CZI looking to frontline for Smokey. He's free firing. But the door into the cage is beautiful. But where's the follow-up damage? Smokey is still free firing. That Guardian Angel is still up and active. He mixes the shutdown gold onto Krama. Jinx is still alive and free firing, throwing the rockets out. But it is 2 kills over 2. CBR only losing Krama in that top side. And a 2-for-1 at this point in the game. The Elder Dragon up and active. Nation is alive. They have the smite. But suddenly the pick control is fully in favor of CB Rangers.
Yeah, is also spawning really quickly here. So if CBR are going to make a play here on this Elder Dragon, they have to do it fast. They have to burst it down before CZ gets a chance, because he is going to respawn first, and he has that TP. Krama also has that TP, but he is only respawning a couple of seconds. But it's late game now. A couple of seconds is all it. Teams have such high burst that one pick, one ability landing where it's supposed to, one pick finding its mark is all it takes, as Peacemaker is stalling out for this Herald. Nation just looking for it.
Yeah, the blue suede shoes. Nation can't find his way. He's looking for it. Oh my god, Nation finally found his smite key, and it was just in time. The Elder Dragon secured for Conduit Esports Phoenix. Trash Panda finds Black Eyed Peas invisible in the Wukong, and now CZI has teleported in looking for the aggression. They're getting on top of Peacemaker. Smokey goes godlike, picks him up with the Elder Dragon proc, and suddenly Conduit Esports Phoenix have found their way back into a game that should have been theirs to begin with.
Absolutely, Conduit. I can't even speak right now. Conduit Esports Phoenix, a 44-minute grueling game of blood, sweat, and tears from both teams.
It's not over yet. It's over yet. Smokey's gonna get deleted out of his guardian angel. They don't find the burst onto him after he respawns. Smokey stays alive thanks to that Seraphine W. Massive healing coming through. Trash Fan is gonna find the last hit. Balrog is gonna get picked up eventually by CZI as the Gwen is just too strong. Gonna get exhausted away, forced to walk away, but that's the first Nexus tower down. Smokey's looking for the second one. The Gnar doesn't find its work. Blown up, deleted. Elder Dragon says no. Trash Panda will fall. Smokey's the only one left alive, but it does not matter. Conduit Esports Phoenix pick up game 1.
I don't have the words for this kind of game. This was probably one of the most wild games I have ever casted in my entire life. A 44-minute slugfest from two teams that had Baron steals, Dragon steals, picks, mistakes, and everything in between. Both of these teams showcased basically everything they had to win this game. And this is only game 1, Brittany. This is game 1 of what is most likely going to be a 3-game series, or at least I would hope so. And maybe you want to get your popcorn, maybe you want to get your snacks, your sodas, whatever, because this is going to be a full-on marathon, all of these games. If we have games like that all night, you can expect this to go for hours.
Yeah, this is going to be one hell of a series once we get to it. We are going to take a short break so I can recover and get ready for game 2. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Just go. Just go. Welcome back, everybody. After a very exciting game one between Conduit Esports Phoenix and CB Rangers, Conduit Esports Phoenix managed to find the win in the late game through their jinx and take away the first game in this, what is going to be a very exciting series. I'm still What Too Pretty. That's still Quacks. I got the right direction this time. How are we feeling after that game one?
Kind of exhausted. My vocal cords are definitely going to feel that one in the morning, and I think what the worst part is we potentially have 2 more of those in store. So I am both excited and nervous for my personal hygiene as we hop into the draft here of game 2. So I think both of these teams definitely have some adjustments to make here in these games. I think that CBR need to respect a little bit more here on that mid lane and on that ADC. I think that it's no understatement that Smokio was definitely the MVP of that game, being able to be so consistent in every single team fight. That Jinx is definitely an issue, but we see relatively the same bans here as Yuumi, Zeri are taken away from the side of CPX, as CBR just doesn't want Smokey picking those champs at all.
Yeah, it looks like the bans are going to stay pretty much exactly the same, but this time Conduit Esports Phoenix, instead of taking away the Trundle, they are going to take away Zac, not allow CB Rangers to pick that one up in that first pick. So I wonder if that means that now that the Trundle has made its way through, if CB Rangers will just put the priority on that and grab that one for themselves, or if they're just going to grab that Sivir. We saw it. I was looking at chat in between the games, and somebody, I think it was Vanderall, in between the games, said, "Oh yeah, CBR is just going to pick Sivir now." And good call. You're absolutely right.
Yup, and in response to that, we see the Karthus Nocturne on the side of CPX. Now, I didn't talk about this in the last game, but I think that Nocturne is probably one of the most versatile champions you could see in all of AGL here, as there are players on the side of CPX that have been known to play. I believe the Trash Panda has played some of the craziest mid lane picks we've ever seen in AGL. He's played things. Let me just look at my notes here. Yep, Karthus, Kled, Jax, Jarvan have all been played mid lane here on the side of the Trash Panda. So I would expect that to go mid, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Smokia has like a Smurf account, maybe an alt somewhere that he's been practicing Karthus ADC. I wouldn't be surprised to see that in response to the Sivir, as most ADC matchups are won if you are Karthus, if you know how to hit those Qs. Karthus is definitely one of the most devastating champions to lane against, if you know what you're doing, as we see CBR respond here with the Wukong LeBlanc.
This is a very deadly jungle mid duo. The amount of single target bursts that both these champions have in combination with each other is so high. So anytime, if it does end up being that Karthus mid, that Karthus and Nocturne start to try and pair up with those ultimates, get somewhere on the map, if the LeBlanc and Wukong can find them, it's lights out. And the Conduit Esports Phoenix, instead of locking in that AD carry for themselves, they're going to keep that flexibility with the Karthus, like you were talking about. And they're going to grab that Shen in the top lane for the for CZI.
Yeah, 100%. If you're auto-filled top lane, usually Shen is the champion to pick. Super easy, has a lot of uses, even when you're not the carry. That Stand United is arguably a top 5 ultimate in the entire game. It's incredibly versatile, whether you're engaging and want to make sure you're or like you want to tag along on that engage and make sure your primary person who's going in doesn't die, or you want to save a teammate. Stand United is easily one of the best spells and ultimates here in the game. So I'm curious to see how CZ manages to pull off that Shen, because there are definitely different styles of Shen that you can pick. As we go into the ban phase here, CBR heavily prioritizing the ADCs, which is really different than what they did last game, as they really were banning away the top laners.
I'm noticing 2 important champions have not been seen in this pick yet, in this pick ban for either side. The Jinx and the Thresh are both still available if Conduit Esports Phoenix wants to grab one of those 2. They are going to grab that Alistar, keep that flexibility with the Karthus. I do like that for themselves. And Alistar, like we were talking about earlier, a comfort pick for Trudabagel, something that a champion that he knows how to play and knows how to pilot. We saw Peacemaker, despite the loss, have an incredible performance on it in that game 1. So we'll have to see if Trudabagel can show him up in game 2 and maybe make this a quick 2-0 series, as we are seeing CBR wait the timer down just a little bit for their last 2 picks. That's a rel hover, and that's a rel lock-in. They're going to grab that rel for the bottom lane.
Rel, definitely a good engaged champion, but incredibly uncommon. I mean, there's a reason that in the most recent dev blog that she said she was getting a mid-scope update. Rel, while she does have her glaring problems as a champion, and I feel that other champions do what she does better, is a really good champion if you know what you're doing. The engage she can provide is unparalleled, and most champions don't even come close to that level of just stickiness with that ultimate, with that W, with that stun. All these things can really benefit your team if you know how to play Rel correctly.
Yeah, the only issue with Rel is once you are in, you are in. There is no way out. You're not something like an Alistar where you can pop that ultimate for yourself and start to walk away. As Conduit Esports Phoenix, with seeing all of the draft face up, they're going to lock in the Jhin for themselves. So that is pretty much confirmed. A Karthus mid lane and a Shen in the top side. Unless it is Karthus jungle and Nocturne mid, which I guess is potentially likely, but we know Nation likes the Nocturne, Trash Panda likes the Karthus, so that's the way we're expecting it to go.
Yeah, and I want to highlight both of these teams here and what they kind of want to do before we do hop into the game here. So CBR have drafted themselves a very engage and chase down heavy comp. Things like the LeBlanc, Wukong, Rel, even the Sivir ultimate really help with just pursuing those elongated fights that you want to happen. And they have a really good comp for just starting fights in general. Wukong is really good for starting fights. We talked about it. Rel is really good at that too. And eventually when Gwen scales, that ultimate can do a lot of damage. And then on the other side, CPX have a lot of global agency. Karthus R's, Shen R's, the Jhin R even has a really long range, can influence team fights and basically pick off stragglers really easily if you know how to play the Jhin correctly. So I'm curious to see how they play team fights most importantly. I think CPX do have a decent team fight ability, but I do think that CBR beat them out on that front. So if CPX want to win this game, I think they're going to have to do it through smart rotations and overall just if the fights are close, usually CPX can make them even. They have the ability to make a lost fight into an even fight with things like the Karthus and Nocturne. So I'm interested to see how they play around this sort of scaling comp that they've drafted for themselves versus CBR, who have a very dive-heavy, engage-heavy comp that likes to explode right out of the gate, but also has a little bit of flexibility in late game with things like the LeBlanc and like the Sivir.
Yeah, there is a lot of side lane potential with the Sivir and the Gwen. I do like the comp that CBR have drafted for themselves. And again, just keeping our eyes on that mid lane pool, Barak has locked in another unique pick in that LeBlanc and has maintained it playing every single champion one time throughout this tournament as we continue on in the winter split. I do appreciate that he's sticking with the theme. And I liked LeBlanc into this particular draft. I think it is a good pick into Karthus. A high mobility mage into Karthus is something that he hates playing against, especially someone who can very easily maneuver around that slowing wall and get out of that the wailing souls in his E anytime he's trying to just like get aggressive on the LeBlanc. It's a very difficult champion for him to lane into. And I think it is a good pick into what ended up being the rest of Conduit Esports Phoenix's draft. I think Jhin is going to have a really difficult time staying alive versus all of this dive.
Yeah, I've said this a million times before in solo queue. I think Jhin, I hate having Jhins on my team. I'm just going to say it here right now. I think Jhin, while he does have his uses, being sort of a weak side ADC, right, he can provide a lot without the need for resources. He doesn't have any mobility. He doesn't have a lot of damage except for with that crit shot, which, yes, it does deal a lot of damage. Yes, he does get the movement speed from it. But I do feel like there are champions that exist in the game who are better in this current meta that just do what he does, but way better. So I'm curious to see how they're going to play out with this Jhin, as I do think I do kind of feel like Smokey has potential as an ADC. If last game was any indication, player has a lot of potential to make those outplays, make those strong laning choices, and just be an absolute monster. And I feel like Jhin is a hindrance on the skill that Smokey was able to portray in last game. If any game was a display of talent, last game was, and I feel like Jhin just will not be able to unlock the same amount of talent that Smokey has, and we know he has, and he's shown in this series so far.
Yeah, and while we could keep talking about this draft forever, we are going to take a short break before we get into Summoner's Rift for this game too. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We'll see if Conduit Esports Phoenix can knock it out and give themselves a quick 2-0. Don't go anywhere.
to be left for us. My people look on and say, don't fear what you don't know, 'cause we're far from certain fate. And we'll make our final stand, lost in the dark. We've come so far, another step to rid the pain. Go and be counted till your last day, 'cause only nightmares break their flames. So stand upon these fallen lands and follow in our Father's plans. Yeah, until the end we will remain, and we'll hold on until the last So stand upon these fallen lands and follow in our Father's plans. Yeah, until the end we will remain, and we'll hold on until our last fellow armsmen, I ask you, will you follow me tonight to break their spine and reclaim what once was mine? Those cravens backstabbed me, deceived me. Never shall I tolerate their crimes again.
Welcome back, everybody, to our matchup of CBR versus Conduit Esports Phoenix. We should have a pretty exciting matchup here as these two teams load onto Summoner's Rift. The drafts overall, I think, pretty standard for what we were expecting from both teams. Again, Barrock picking out that unique champion, and Nation and Trash Panda going back to a tried and true combo for themselves of the Nocturne and the Karthus.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how these teams adjust to these sort of different drafts. Although Black Eyed Peas is still on this Wukong, I definitely think he has a better team to sort of back up the engage he wants in this game. Wukong, a champion that really wants to go in. He did have that Gnar last game, but I do feel like LeBlanc plus Sivir is 100% better for backing up what Wukong wants to do. And most importantly, this game, he actually has champions for an outlet to be able to build that Black Cleaver. That Sivir is able to capitalize off that Black Cleaver beautifully if he wants to build it. And this time, there's basically no healing on the side of CPX, so we can't yell at him for building a healing reduction item at all. He's forced into the Black Cleaver, and so it's efficient this game, and we're happy.
Yeah, even with the double AP solo lanes, I think the Black Cleaver will still have enough value just as an item with the stats that it gives. So it should be totally okay. as we look to the mid lane right now, as we're trading some wards and trading a little bit of damage. I like the W start from Barak just to make sure that the first strike is totally inactive from Trash Panda. Just W in, get that auto attack off before Trash Panda can activate that rune. It's already been deactivated twice in this game, which is a lot for the early game.
Yeah, I agree. I think is definitely going to be a test of how careful CBR can be in terms of restraint this game, because if CBX get a lead, they have really good scaling on their team. If they get a slight lead, especially on this Karthus or maybe even this Jhin, this game can fall to pieces really quickly. And although yes, CBR do scale themselves, it's nothing compared to what a Karthus can do in the late game with that ultimate, with that Requiem.
Yeah, even if you're just like at the start of a Baron fight, especially with the lack of healing that this CBR team has, if you get that like level 16 Requiem, you have first strike active, and the rest of their team, like sans Sivir, who would have a spell shield, loses like half of their HP, or in some cases 3/4 of their HP. It's something you're feeling a lot more comfortable to take, like a Dragon Soul fight, a Baron fight, or even an Elder fight. So we'll have to see what Trash Panda can do once we get to that late game, or I should say, if we get to that late game, because if CBR gets the game that they want to play, Sivir and Wukong will be running him down before he gets the chance to get to that point.
Yeah, and I would definitely expect Nation to sort of stick around here on this top side. Bot lane isn't really a lane that you're worried about if you're Nocturne. You're more worried about just kind of full clearing and making sure you can hit 6. And I definitely think the spike here, CPX here in this game, is when their top side hits 6. You get Karthus R, Nocturne R, and Shen R all unlocked, and that can just completely open the game up for you as I say that, and Nation is cutting across to maybe go for a top gank here.
Yeah, had that full clear on those jungle camps, but immediately runs to top lane as Krama has over-pushed. He's looking for the aggression onto CZ, though the Ignite is down, and it's ticking away. The Conqueror's fully stacked, but Krama doesn't have the damage to follow through. First blood goes to Nation.
Yup, Nation taking advantage of that flashless Gwen as they pick up a kill on the top side here. Really big pickup, to be honest, for the side of CPX, and especially on Nocturne. Getting a Nocturne ahead against a team that is mostly squishy, especially on their bot side of the map, is really advantageous, and that ultimate can deal a lot of damage, not just in terms of like actual damage, but also the blindness and the nearsightedness that it does provide can really hurt any team who is uncoordinated.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for this Nocturne, and especially, like you said, getting accelerated on a pick that really does just want to like farm, get to that level 6 point, and then start being unlocked in the lanes is a really good sign for Conduit Esports Venus. This Black Eyed Peas is going to be here in mid lane again. They're looking to get aggressive onto Trash Panda. The chains are going to connect. The electrocute comes through. The Ignite is taking away. Looking for the trade of the Black Eyed Peas. He will be able to escape with a sliver of HP. Triumph making sure that he's out of range of a sort of flash engage from Nation. But that is a nice gank counter in the mid lane for Black Eyed Peas. And it's back down to 1-1. Gold score even across the board.
Yeah, I agree with what CBR are trying here, and specifically what Black Eyed Peas is focusing here. If you can manage to get this LeBlanc ahead, it's the LeBlanc of a nightmare, right? Barak, yes, he has played all unique champions, but any kind of player can, you know, burst down the backline carries of any sort of team with a champ like LeBlanc. It becomes incredibly easy as Nation going in his top lane gank.
Yeah, that was a bit of an interesting decision. They got the taunt onto Krama, but that is still a Gwen. She has the dash and the Hallowed Mist. That seems like a bit of a desperation game from Nation, just trying to make sure that this top lane stays even, as we do see about 10 CS lead for Krama up here on the top side. Just the power of Gwen in the early game bullying away Shen from all of his farm. It should be about what we expect, as Krama now, as I said, that is going to take a hefty trade against him as CZ gets a nice taunt in and plenty of damage. CZ is going to find a solo kill up there at the top side of Black Eyed Peas now, trying to get the counter, but knows that Shen is tanky enough that he can't find the engage. And that's CZ just walking away with a flash for a free kill.
Yeah, actually a really good solo kill here on the side of CZ, as now Black Eyed Peas is forced to stay in the top lane and hold that wave for the side of Krama instead of going down to his bot. He definitely misses out on tempo getting the CS, which is not what you want on Wukong. You want to be able to get those early leads in this matchup, because late game, you're not as useful as this Wukong. This Wukong will mess you up the more farm he gets and the more useful he becomes as this game becomes progressively longer. And yeah, just a really good overall important solo kill from CZ here. Props to him for that.
Yeah, that's a really important kill to find, especially when you are Flash versus Ignite, as both of these players did opt for the teleport. Just shutting down the Gwen in the early game and making sure that Ignite is less and less useful as opposed to something like a Ghost or like a Flash makes you feel a lot better about the state of this lane as the tank. And we were talking about it in draft that Gwen is kind of a counter matchup into Shen, and just the fact that like you can bully him away as Trash Panda is taking a big chunk of his HP, but Rock is looking for these last auto attacks. Flash away from Trash Panda, he'll be able to survive. Now we got a 2v2 up here on the top side. The CZ is getting engaged on, but the Requiem is here for the follow-up. Barak will find just a bit of a freaking lockdown, though. Krama will find Nation, and suddenly it's a double kill for Krama and 3 kills for CB Rangers.
Rock actually did a really clutch play there. I believe he Flash R to kill Trash Panda with 1 hit as he was casting that Requiem. Actually, a really good fight for the side of CBR now. Puts them back into the game, and more specifically puts Krama back into the game, as now he's 2-0 on this Gwen. And we had a Gwen last game here build that Iceborne. And so I'm curious to see if Krama is going to build the standard Riftmaker into Nashor's Tooth Gwen. And based on the build he's portrayed so far, it looks like he is going for that. So we will see a more damage-focused Gwen this game.
Yeah, it looks like it is going to be opting for either like the Riftmaker or I guess potentially a Demonic Embrace if she really wants that % health burn and that tank shred, as it's going to be an engage on the bottom side. Nice flash away from Old Man Genetics. He'll be able to escape from Nation, and now Black Eyed Peas is here. They're going to look for some kind of potential follow-up. Black Eyed Peas has the Cyclone, looks to get on top of Smokey. He's got that 4-shot movement speed, though. He is walking away. The flash in the next one from True to Bagel. They're going to get Black Eyed Peas onto the tower. The Shadow coming through to keep Smokey alive. And it's a 1v1 right now. Support for Jungler. CZ with a really nice stand united to make sure that Smokey will not fall. And it's a 1-for-1 across the map.
Yeah, actually pretty good for the bot side of CPX here, as they do get a return kill. But I do have to highlight here, this is actually really bad for the side of CZ. He's probably going to lose around 3 plates here in this top lane to an already really fed Gwen. So Krama is going to be incredibly big if this game opens. And if I'm Black Eyed Peas here, I'm looking straight for that Herald. I'm looking to pass top and get Krama ahead, because Krama is just going to be getting so many plates now that CZ is bot lane and that he doesn't have that teleport.
Yeah, that is 2 plates down already. Probably the 3rd to follow onto this next wave. And already a 25 CS lead in that top side. CBR, despite the kills being ever so slightly even, it's 2 kills in favor of CB Rangers. It's 2,000 gold ahead for them in this spot. And they're feeling very comfortable with the lead that they've got in their mid and in their top lane.
Yeah, I also think it is worth noting that Black Eyed Peas opted for a Blue Smite this game again. While I do think Blue Smite was justified last game, I'm not really sure about this game. You don't really have a front line that can tank a lot of damage, especially now that we know Krama isn't going to be going that tank build like we saw from CZ last game. So the tankiness in the front line is a much needed thing that you need if you are CBR, and you would get a lot more of that if you went green pet, but we're going blue pet this game, surprisingly, so I'm curious to see how they're going to play around that extra movement speed from the Wukong.
Yeah, the blue pet with that Divine Sunderer like we saw in game 1. We'll have to see what item he opts for in this in that second item slot. We're hoping for the Black Leader, as True to Bagel is looking for some kind of engage in the mid lane, but that is still LeBlanc, so she's still just gonna immediately pop back to that pad, be totally safe and okay. I have a personal vendetta against LeBlanc. I really hate instant teleportation in only games, let alone in League, with all of the high mobility that champions have. It's so difficult to play around, and Barak should be able to just bully this lane out, as Karthus is going to have such a difficult time hitting any Skittles, as Black Eyed Peas and Peacemaker are looking for some engage onto Nation. They're going to find a 2-man knockout. The Requiem will not be able to be interrupted this time, as it is in the base, but Nation is already gone and dead. CBR have the perfect rotate, and they're going to find 2 kills for Krama again. A double kill on the top side as Old Man Genetics is looking for the damage onto Smokey. He's getting the crits. He's getting the crits. He's finding the kill. Old Man Genetics with a solo kill on the bottom side, and suddenly CBR have totally pulled away a gold lead in this game.
Yeah, CBR with the all-around kills and all-around advantages coming to them here 11 minutes into the game. 2-0 on this LeBlanc, and 2-0 here on this Sivir. CBR with an incredible early lead as they look to propel that lead with the Dragon here, the Mountain Drake.
Yeah, early Mountain Dragon, always really nice to have, especially on champions like Wukong, like Rel, and even like Gwen. She loves to have that one, as we see Barak played a little bit aggressive in the enemy jungle. That spell shield does not work on the second part of the LeBlanc W. The Stand United forced to be burned just to make sure that the Ignite can't kill us. Barak is going to get stunned up. The shot's going to go wide, but thankfully Smokey will find that fourth shot and get the shutdown goal for himself. But that is still the Dragon going over to CVR as Peacemaker now maybe in trouble. Bagel gonna get the knock off the ground, pound, getting the stun through. Peacemaker will get picked up. It's just a matter of who they choose to donate the kill over to. The Ignite is taking away. Flash forward for Trash Panda just to make sure that he gets it. And that will be the kill donated over to the card. This is his first kill of the game. As Nation, I want to point out, actually, he's opted for the Axiom Arc first item here on this knockout.
Wow. Yeah, and we can see the Herald being placed down here in bot lane, but again, Grandma left alone in the top lane. I don't think this Herald will matter, as Sivir with that expert wave clearing and Black Eyed Peas to shadow him. This will probably be a first turret here, 12.5 minutes into the game, going solely to this Gwen, who is now 4-2 with a giant gold lead here in the top lane. Producer, can we get like a gold lead check on the top laners here?
You might just have to tell us exactly what it is. We got an engage here on the bottom side. Smokey is immediately forced to heal as Black Eyed Peas was looking to be engaged. Old Man Genetics did ghost to try and get aggressive on this play. Oh, the flash here. Shoot a bagel. The spell shield is perfect from Old Man Genetics, not allowing Alistair to get that flash pulverize in, as now Barak is looking for True to Bagel. That unstoppable is gonna pop off at some point as Trash Panda and Krema are meanwhile time are trading in the mid lane. The Ignite is down onto this cart. The Needlework is coming through. Tick, tick, tick. Ignite won't find the kill. Trash Panda will survive with a sliver of HP. There's a lot of action on the map, and again, it's all favoring CB Rangers.
CB Rangers are just going around the map, taking turrets, taking plates, getting what they need to before this game breaks open into the late game, because that's kind of when this game matters, I feel. A lot of strength from CPX comes here in this late game, like I talked about when the champs hit 6. And when they get those 3 items here, I don't know if I agree with Nation going that Axiom Arc, but I still feel like Nocturne has some agency here in this game, despite the blunder of a build, in my opinion. As this Dragon will be spawning here soon, I'm curious to see if this is going to be the game ender here for game 2, as I feel like if CBR do get that advantage here, get that second Drake, they just completely shut down CPX's ability to scale into this game, and it's a game over, as a kill in the mid lane potentially.
Yeah, immediately punishing Trash Panda from being out from under his tower, just immediately taken away, forced to just farm with that passive, and more gold going in favor of CB Rangers. They are now up 6,000 at the 14-minute mark. This is a big turnaround from what we saw was a very back-and-forth game in game 1.
Yeah, definitely. Krama and Co are definitely running through this game, as really good rotations from the bot lane of CBR are definitely starting to shine through in terms of advantages, in terms of gold lead, as they have 2 turrets to nothing and are looking for more. They have a lot more in store in this bot lane, as they have wards basically everywhere. There are a lot of deep wards in that bot lane that give them a lot of information that CPX just aren't aware of, and it helps them a lot with these rotations from Burak, from Black Eyed Peas, even from Peacemaker. Just being able to make these plays comes and stems from that amazing vision that they have around the map.
Yeah, this is a pretty disastrous game for Conduit Esports Phoenix after what was a tremendous win for them in game 1. CB Rangers took that loss personally and have just played this early in composition to, I would almost say, perfection, as the Sivir has gotten a couple of kills in her inventory. She's getting close to that Navori quick blades. Gwen, obviously incredibly fed on this top side in what should be a Gwen favored matchup. It's exactly what you want to see, and enabling them all is Black Eyed Peas in that jungle. The Wukong doing his job exactly as he should.
Yep, gold advantages, CS advantages here all around. The Wukong has been doing really well here, as he will be finishing that Divine Sunder, and now goes into the Clawfield's Warhammer, going in to that Black Cleaver, as this is actually this is going to be a pretty significant spike here, as I actually thought Old Man Genetics wouldn't be super far ahead here in this game, but 2-0 up nearly 20 CS on your opposing laner. Really starting to show us an engagement on mid lane.
Peacemaker gets a nice W out, canceling out that fear from Nocturne, as Trash Panda is going to get aggressed on the bottom side, force the Stand United and defensively on the bottom side of the map, and instead of into that engage on the mid lane. And now Barak and Black Eyed Peas are here. The Cyclone flash in from Nation. True to Bagel is going to try and flash into the ground pound, but doesn't find anyone. Black Eyed Peas picks up Nation. Borok is now here. Trash Beta has found his way in. They find a shutdown goal. This is a dead Carcass on top of a massive team, but the rest of the team is dead. It's a double kill for Black Eyed Peas, a double kill for Krama, and it's nearly an ace for CV Rangers as Jin is forced to run away under his tower. He will get picked up, and there's the ace. CV Rangers are coming out ahead in this one.
How did Peacemaker die?
He tanked tower.
He just ran into tower. Well, regardless of CBR losing a couple of members, that is a team fight that comes out on top for them as Krama now 6-2 here on this going to recall, likely going to be able to get that Gnasher's Tooth, or at least very close to it, as they gear up for this this second dragon, and it looks like CBR are just going to run straight for this as CPX are starting to run out of options here in this game. So I'm curious to see how they'll respond here.
Yeah, you're saying third dragon just because of how that last game went, but it has been a lot slower in terms of objectives in this game. Only one Rift Herald down at the 17-minute mark, and only one dragon down at that same amount of time. The second dragon now spawned up, the Hextech Dragon available on the map. I'd imagine for CBR's taking when they want to, as they now have an 8,000 gold lead for themselves in this game, as they are just trying to have control, I think, over both objectives right now, try and make sure that Nation and the rest of Conduit Esports Phoenix can't make any sort of a trade. I don't know if it'll be possible to do, as they might just be able to take the Rift Herald in exchange for that dragon. But it doesn't look like they're actually going to be able to. So it looks like, yeah, CB Rangers are going to be able to take control of both objectives and really just starve Conduit Esports out of this game totally.
You could see CPX are really trying to motion their way here into that Herald pit, but you can see they just can't get into it. They're so far behind here in this game. Krama is so far ahead, and Black Eyed Peas so far ahead to the point where they don't even need anyone to assist him here on this second dragon, and can just basically zone and bully, like you said, CPX off of any sort of objective they want to take. This game looking ridiculously bleak for CPX after such an insane win here in Game 1. They're just falling to pieces here in Game 2.
Yeah, it's genuinely, it's very surprising to see the high-intensity, high-action game from Game 1 drop to this sort of a series. It ended up being a lot slower in the early game. The Shen and the Nocturne not able to do as much early game aggression once they hit that level 6 mark, as like we talked about in draft, that 2v2 mid-jungle duo, as we got aggression somewhere on the map as they're dropping the Carcass and the Nocturne ulti to try and get on Gwen. They're gonna find Krama, but this is a Gwen under tower, and she's got the needlework on. This is just desperation from Conduit Esports Phoenix, as they aren't even able to burn any sort of like important ultimate ability. It is just the Gwen ult defensively.
Yeah, even then, Krama, I think it was definitely a blunder from CPX. They probably lost vision of the Gwen with that delayed Nocturne ult, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, the desperation is starting to seep in here as CBR placing this Herald in the mid lane. They're saying, run it down mid. We don't really need to put side lanes here. CBR have an incredible deathball comp, as we said here in the draft, and they're using it to its full effectiveness, placing every single member here in mid as Krama's on his way.
Yeah, they are going to get that Herald to charge into that mid inhibitor turret. It will drop down to about a quarter HP, but with the wave being disappeared thanks to the Carcass and the Jin, there's not much more to follow up afterwards, as it looks like CB Rangers are just going to try and do the 20-minute Baron, or at the very least act like they're going to, as they're going to try and fake it out, see if there's anyone from Conduit Esports Phoenix who will come to check it. As CZ is on the top side of the map, he's playing a little bit of a dangerous game here as Nation. I don't think he saw Barok enter that bush. Knocked up, locked up by the chains, picked up, knocked down. That is the Conduit Esports Phoenix jungler taken down, and I think that's almost for sure just an instant Baron for CB Rangers.
Yup, an instant Baron here for CB Rangers in a team that already specializes in push, as Bo3 making a little bit of an audacious play there, almost gets taken out. I have a feeling if they landed just one more thing of CC onto him, it might have been a dead LeBlanc and 150 gold shutdown over to CPX, but alas, it's just going to be a free Baron on CBR. So now, if I'm CPX this game and I'm seeing this kind of scoreline, I'm seeing the 4-1 LeBlanc, I'm seeing the 6-2 Gwen, I'm seeing the 3-1-10 Wukong, I'm thinking, okay, what can we kind of do here for next game? Because while the game isn't necessarily over here, this is sort of when players here start to mentally check out, I feel, and where a lot of players kind of, in solo queue at least, would probably be spamming that FF button. So I feel like CPX definitely needed to adjust their drafts for next game. Don't do the exact same thing that you did between games 1 and 2. They had a similar draft despite the fact that they almost lost. And I feel like that was definitely the wrong approach. Just because you win the first game doesn't allow you to sort of get and be assured of yourself, because the game was still really close. And I think that this is definitely a wake-up call for CPX, telling them that, okay, this is actually a challenging team. This isn't a DePaul team that we can just 2-0. I apologize to DePaul. You're catching strays here. But in this analogy, I feel like it definitely requires a lot of brainpower for CPX to be like, okay, we need to reassess our mindset, we need to reassess our draft, and we need to figure out what we're going to do here for game 3, because they have to mentally recover from the second game, which might be hard for some players here, as they have to mentally recover, and they have to recover from their draft for the third game. So curious to see what CPX is saying in their heads right now.
Yeah, this is a pretty disastrous spot for Conduit Esports Phoenix. Again, like after that first game win, you're feeling like high off of the adrenaline of, oh my god, we actually managed to pull out that win after a pretty back and forth game, as Bo3 is just looking for the burst on to Trash Panda. And he's about the Sarah shield, though. A nice knock over the wall from Bagel, but the deletion from the Gwen. Gonna pop that stopwatch just to make sure that that card Salty gets 0 value. Bagel is next to fall. It's a double kill for Cramble, but he will fall in response. The shutdown gold going over to Smokia. That's the player you want to see it on, but that is still an inhibitor drop, and probably a second one on the way very soon, as CBR are just swinging their wallet into CPX's face. They have 13,000 gold over them, closer to 12,000, but it's still a lot of damn money. Really difficult for Conduit Esports Phoenix to find their way back in this one.
Yup, and we can see CBR saying, okay, let's go bot lane, take this turret, and then they'll probably posture for this Drake, and that'll mean soul point on the side of CBR. CBR, this game, really showing why they are a 5-1 team, why they are a tournament favorites here in this last week as we do approach playoffs. Definitely a team to be feared here, as CBR really displaying what they can do when ahead, which is definitely something we fear here, as we both took notes and discussed between games and before the series started. When CBR have a lead, it becomes really difficult to shut them down.
Yeah, it really, their losses do end up coming from those gold lead differences at 15 being against them, and really one of their only like big wins with a gold lead against them coming through against Clown Gaming, another top of the standing team. So it's not like it's impossible for them to come back, or for teams for them to come back, or for teams to come back against them, but it's definitely much harder in terms of what their stats tell us. And right now, it's feeling like this is CBR's game to just run over. And we've talked about it in broadcast before. It's a point that we've made a couple of games in a row here. Just the fact of, like, the game gets to a certain point where it is no longer Conduit Esports Phoenix game to try and win. It is now CB Rangers game to lose. They have to make some sort of drastic, awful mistake, give over all of their shutdown golds, probably twice, along with some objective ones, just to give Conduit Esports Phoenix some sort of chance back into the game. But outside of that, it really is just, as long as CB Ranger doesn't make a big mistake, there's not a lot that Conduit Esports Phoenix can do to find a way back into that game, into this game, and that's such a demoralizing spot to be in as a player.
Yeah, I agree, and we could definitely see the weaknesses from CPX coming here, as their team just doesn't have like any wave clear. They have to get to the wave in order to take it. Karthus, while he can slow the wave down with that wall of pain, just is not enough to delay the charging train of CBR, who's just running them over and is currently at their base. CPX are gonna have to make a play here.
They're looking for the desperation engage, but Nocturne ulti's on, but he's not flying in just yet. They're gonna try and get the aggression down. A nice 4-man pulverize from Bagel. This might be engaged. That CPX we're looking for, but again, the wallets are just not behind them. Krampus gonna find a double kill. Krampus will find a triple kill, as Barrock will pick up one of those kills. The Old Man Genetics will pick one up as well, and it is just cleaned up by CBR. A blazingly fast in comparison 25-minute game. CBR are gonna fight even up the series score in 1-1.
Yeah, a very convincing win here for CBR, showing why they're top of the standings team, why they deserve to be feared, why they deserve to be the tournament favorites, just displaying all-around skill, better teamwork, better rotations, better understanding of their champion pools, and overall, better drafts. I would say their draft going into this game was much better than what CPX had to display here, as it relied heavily on just being able to scale up. And overall, I felt like CBR's draft was way easier to execute too. Ease in comps is something that a lot of these teams need to start looking for, and I felt like CPX's team comp was just so much harder to execute correctly, as CBR take an incredibly convincing game 2 here, as we now have a match point here in game 3.
Yeah, I do want to say the early game pathing from CPX in the jungle especially was maybe a little bit suspect, but I think that's something that we can discuss as we get into the preparation for game 3. We are going to take a short break while we wait for the draft to load up and we get ourselves into that all-important match point and see which one of these teams will take sole possession of first place in the Industrial Conference. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome, everybody, back to tonight's coverage of the AGL. We have had a very exciting series, a very back-and-forth one, as CBR have tied it up 1-1 now as we get to match point for both of these teams. I'm excited to see what this game 3 has in store.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how both of these teams are mentally after that pretty one-sided game two. CBR were riding on a really close game in game one and then just displayed what they had in game two. So they have to be feeling good about that stomp in game two, probably riding that momentum here into game three. CPX, though, probably going to have to recover and recuperate their draft and their mental. Both those things very important to win this third game, as it might be difficult for them to kind of see past the just sheer force that CBR and the show that they were able to put on in that game too. So very, very curious to see, especially what CPX feels after that second game.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where the draft is going to take us. We are waiting for all of the players to be ready. We've got the draft loaded up and just waiting for, again, all the players to be ready and all of them to be here. I'm curious to see, as CPX did opt to take the blue side in this game three, go back to that game one. What the bans are going to be.
Yeah, a Jax ban from the side of CPX, maybe not thinking that Mordekaiser will go top lane, maybe thinking they might have something up their sleeve. Maybe it's a Mordekaiser mid lane here. Maybe Burak has something up his sleeve. I mean, he always has something up his sleeve.
He hasn't played Mordekaiser mid yet, so it's possible.
Yup, we see that Jax and then the Veigar banned away, and then the Gwen from CBR banning that top laner away from CZ, definitely respecting the fact that his Gwen was really efficient in the first game. And a Braum picked up for the side of CBR and for Peacemaker. Interesting pick.
I really like Braum here. CBR getting access to that unbreakable, the wind wall, just to make sure that Seraphine ult can't find its way through the whole team. As long as Braum is paying attention to where Seraphine is positioning, it should make it a lot more difficult for her to find that full value with the Seraphine, as the lock-in for CPX is actually going to be that Swain. I wonder if that will be a Swain support matching up with the Caitlyn, or if it's going to be in the mid lane and then have the Seraphine match up with that Caitlyn.
Yeah, Swain is definitely one of the most versatile champions in basically the whole game. He can go support ADC, he can go mid lane. Hell, if you're really weird, he can go top lane. So I am curious to see where CPX want to place this Swain, as if a Swain gets ahead, the game becomes ridiculously difficult to play. He's just this unkillable demon who everyone runs away from. You can't run away from him even, he just permanently slows you. So I'm curious to see how they're going to utilize the Swain into an immobile comp like CBR here. Don't have a lot of dashes on things like the Mordekaiser, like the Sivir, as we do see a Camille pick to round out CPX's comp.
Yeah, I do really like this Camille pick here. I think the death ball of the team fight from CPX really was completed with that Swain, and they really were just missing some backline dive, some threat in the side lane. I do really appreciate that they're grabbing that pick, that comfortable pick for CZ in the top lane. Just give him a matchup that he knows and is able to pilot nicely, as CBR is going to lock in the Galio, which I think means, yeah, that Mordekaiser will go to the top lane and the Galio will head a mid. And as I'm just checking my list to double check, yeah, this is another unique pick. Barak is sticking with the theme. Way to go, Barak, all the way up to the end.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this Galio functions into a comp like CPX. He's good at engaging, but he's also good at disengaging. Things like the ultimate from things like the Galio ultimate, like the taunt, can really just say no to any kind of engage you have as a team. And CPX have a lot of engage. Camille, Swain, even the Seraphine Encore can start a team fight. So definitely a team fighting battle here, as both of these teams really want to fight, really want to group up, and really want to take control of that river. And I feel like if this game goes to late, it's dead even.
Yeah, I do also want to say welcome to all the people who are coming from the Aegis Esports main channel. We are in a battle for the top of the bracket here in the Industrial Conference. We've got Conduit, Esports Phoenix, and CB Rangers fighting in both of that 5-1 spot, looking to take sole possession of first place. A very exciting long slog of a first game. Conduit, Esports Phoenix managed to find the win, and then CB Rangers, taking that loss personally, come out blazing in game 2. 25-minute win for them, and we are lining ourselves up for this all-important game 3 match point to see who can take the top of the Industrial Conference in this AGL winter split.
Yeah, definitely curious to see which of these teams come out on top here. CPX having to recover their mental, CBR maybe trying to ride that momentum that they had in game 2 here, as I think both teams really starting to gear up, really starting to pull out all the stops. A lot of flex picks that we haven't seen here in these last 2 games have been pulled out. The Swain, the Camille, even the Mordekaiser. These are all champs we haven't seen yet. So you can see both these teams are really just trying to pick whatever they can to give themselves the win, playing for comfort, playing for comp, playing for team fight, which both of these teams excel at. Both of these team comps just want to team fight, as I said earlier, just really curious to see who will win this this third game. And
Yeah, I do want to say I want to see these junglers pathing towards this bottom lane. You have either Caitlyn Swain or Caitlyn Seraphine. Either way, it is a lane with a lot of gank assist and a lot of poke potential. And you also have Sivir Braum, which is a lane that also has a decent amount of gank assist and really needs help in this particular matchup. Both of these short-range champions into all of the poke that's going to come through from Caitlyn, plus whatever support they decide to pair her with. It's a disgusting amount of help that really is needed in this bottom side. I want to see both of these junglers path down here. I don't want to see any action in the top lane. I want to see Mordekaiser and Camille just beating on each other with their big sticks, just saying who's the better top laner, and just let the junglers play the bottom side of the map. Let the mid laners come down to bot lane, unlock your AD carries. We are going to go to a short break before we head into game 3, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're the rain on my happy days. Dark cloud, you're the storm in the rain. Intoxicated sun, if the sunshine let me know. All my thoughts move in the darkness of pouring downpour of stone. My soul is. Should I pretend like we're just dancing in the sunlight? Now I'm done waiting, and every day until I realize you're the rain on my happy days. Dark cloud, you're the storm in the rain.
Welcome back, everybody. I feel like I do this early every time, but we are back. We are here for game 3 of CPX versus CVR. We are in the all-important match point. Both of these teams are vying for that top of the spot in the Industrial Conference, trying to get that all-important first place spot going into playoffs, as this is our final week before we get to the actual playoff series. And I'm really excited to see where these games will go.
Yeah, you can see both teams just doing what they usually do, starting out with that 5-point defense, going in, covering all of the angles where you could possibly ward, possibly maybe even invade, as a ward will get spotted here in the early game. Now, both of these teams, like we said in draft, they both really want to snowball into team fight comps, right? They have a lot of team fight potential with their ultimates, things like the Braum are, like the Galio are, like the Jarvan are. This can create basically a prison that a lot of CPX players could get into. And on the other side, play champs like CPX with the Wukong, with the Swain, with the Seraphine, that Encore can do a lot of work if you hit it on a lot of targets. So I definitely think we'll see a slower, maybe more methodical early game, and then as the game gets longer, we'll probably see more action.
I desperately want to see Nation and Black Eyed Peas playing towards this bottom lane. We can already see both these junglers are starting on their red buff, which is a big advantage for Black Eyed Peas, as we will be papping towards the bottom side, try and get more safety for the Sivir and Braum in the bottom lane, as Trash Panda already getting a couple of souls off of this Galio in the mid. And I also want to point out, this is a Guardian Galio. I don't know if that was maybe just a rune misclick and maybe he wanted to go for the aftershock, or if this is some sort of late game support Galio spice. We'll have to see how it works out for him as the game goes on.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to point that out, but just didn't have the time. Guardian Galio would probably imply that he's willing to sack the lane, which Burak typically does. Burak typically doesn't like to gank, as Black Eyed Peas looking for a gank.
Yeah, he was looking for that top lane. I feel like I cast a curse to myself there by saying, oh yeah, he's starting on the red buff. He's going to look for the bottom lane. And speaking of bottom lane, Smokia is getting aggressed on Peacemaker, is looking for these concussive blows, auto attacks, huge damage onto Trash Panda. The mid lane, Trash Panda finds first blood when getting ganked by Black Eyed Peas. The Conqueror Swain putting in the work, as now we've got an aggressive engage on the bottom side, as Old Man Genetics is getting engaged on Smokey. Is going to find that last hit. Peacemaker getting caught up by the trap as well. Nation will find the last hit there, as Bo3 is teleporting back into mid, looking to get aggressive on the Trash Panda. But this is a Conqueror Swain. I think he's happy taking these longer trades, as Bo3 is going to lose just a ton of HP after teleporting into lane. This is a massive loss for him.
What a huge advantage all around here for CPX, as they managed to find 3 kills 3 minutes into this game. And it's even worse when you consider that Black Eyed Peas only has 12 CS here and nothing to show for it. He went for 2 ganks, both of which failed, one of which failed more than the other here, as Trash Panda is taken low.
There's a fight in the bottom side jungle as Nation is trying to escape the flash forward from Peacemaker. Bo3 has found Trash Panda. In the meantime, flash forward from Smokey, but he can't find the lethal on the Black Eyed Peas. He doesn't find the damage. Now Smokey's trying to run away. The Winter's Bite will find Smokey. Now the auto attacks will come through. The healer's burn, but it is not going to save Smokey. He won't be able to find the kill. Old Man Genetics will pick up that kill, and just as quickly as Conduit Esports found their lead, they throw it all away, and CB Rangers find themselves back in the game.
Yeah, CPX really trying to extend that lead, but doing it in the wrong way. They didn't account for Old Man Genetics and Peacemaker going back to their lane, and because of that, Nation gets him and his entire bot lane killed, as both sums burn from Smokia and Trudabagel. So this is a no-sums bot lane, and I'm sure Black Eyed Peas is aware of this, and now we'll probably see a lot of action here in the bot lane. So, Brittany, I think you probably just got your wish.
Yeah, we got a very even and very close game in this early game. I thought for sure with those 3 kills that CPX were about to just take the series away. As we got Nation up in the top side, getting aggressive onto Krama. He had the war, but did not respect it. Nation now here, getting aggressive, but there's no hookshot follow-up, so it is just damage onto Krama for now. As yeah, the top lane has been, again, just 2 meatballs banging on each other on the top side. CZ a little bit behind in CS, but he does also have the Doran shield, so he think he's feeling just fine taking some poke.
Yeah, I also do want to note that CZ did have hookshot, but I believe he messed it up on the wall. He like hit the wall with his second hook and just didn't bounce off at the right angle, which is why that kill didn't come through here. And Krama didn't even have to burn a flash for that. Nation, this early game Wukong is definitely not the champion to carry a game here in this early game, he definitely comes and spikes during the mid game when he's able to get those 2 items, as Black Eyed Peas is posturing here. CZ doesn't have flash.
Black Eyed Peas looking to get aggressive. CZI maybe looking to just turn on the crane, finds the turnaround, gets the lethal, will be traded back in response, but a nice 1-for-1 when you're getting ganked feels totally fine. CZ also does still have that teleport, so I imagine that him and Kreml will just burn the teleport to get back up to the top side, unless the wave state is good enough for both of them. Kreml's going to teleport, but I think CZ is going to hold it.
Yeah, CZ definitely has to break this freeze. Krama has a humongous wave pushing into him here in this top lane, so we'll definitely expect to see a little bit of action in the top lane as CZ tries to break this freeze, and bot lane trading a little bit here. Nation is pathing bot, and so is Black Eyed Peas, but yeah, Nation's just slightly ahead of him here in tempo going here into this bot lane, which I think is really what matters now, as both these ADCs are online, with Smokey getting that kill, and then Old Man Genetics getting that return kill here in that bot lane after that skirmish, and yeah, opting to get a Executioner's Calling first item here on this Sivir. Definitely a curious buy, and while I don't fully disagree with it, as yeah, Seraphine does heal a lot, I feel like you don't need it as a first item, and I definitely think that handicaps the damage from Sivir.
Yeah, Sivir is really a champion that relies on getting that 2-3 item power spike where she really starts to get powerful, but I don't hate the Executioner's Calling on her as a an idea, as we do see an aggressive trade on the top side, as Krama is going to pull CZ into the death realm. They're getting aggressive, the health bars are getting low. CZ doesn't have the Unite, doesn't have that passive shield for himself. Krama will find the solo kill with that flash, and now Bagel trying to get away from Peacemaker, but like you mentioned, doesn't have those summoner spells, is just going to get stunned up. The flag and drag, boom, bam, bop. Old Man Genetics finds that one. Borak is just here to get the assist with that heroic entrance, and probably set up for this early Chemtech Dragon as well, as it looks like CBR are going to try and take advantage of the lead they have on the bottom side and start to snowball these dragons away.
Yeah, for sure. Trash Panda just trying to poke out Black Eyed Peas just a little bit here, maybe try and get them off the Drake, but I don't think it'll matter. Nation doesn't yet have that ultimate, so there's no real reason to be able to contest this if you're CPX. Although there is a decent chance he tries. I doubt he will, as yep, that's going to be a quick Dragon for the side of CBR. Chemtech Dragon isn't really the greatest dragon to get upon first or second. Basically, non-soul Chemtech Dragon is not super great. It doesn't provide a lot of usage, and it's very good only in specific cases. So I definitely feel like CPX can brush that one off, sort of recover from getting that dragon taken away. I think the only thing they have to worry about is now they're one dragon behind for getting the eventual soul if the game does go to that. But other than that, I think CPX are eating good. I think they're comfy, and the gold lead isn't too big for them to worry about much.
Yeah, it is just a couple hundred gold lead. The gold practically at this point, even as the players are really just getting farm leads and trying to get kills over each other. I do want to point out that Black Eyed Peas has that serrated Durkit inventory. I wonder if this is going to be a lethality Jarvan, or if he's just opting for something like an early Umbral Glaive to make sure that he can clear out wards, have that early cooldown reduction for himself with the extra ability haste on that item, or if he's going to do something like Prowler's Claw or Eclipse, where he's just trying to dunk on this Caitlyn as hard as possible.
Well, usually if you're ahead here as this Jarvan, you would opt for the Eclipse, especially if you have other champions that can operate as frontliners. And in this case, Black Eyed Peas definitely does. Borak on that Galio, Krama on that Mordekaiser, definitely able to be those frontliners. And Black Eyed Peas doesn't necessarily need to be one of those as well. He doesn't need to operate and go for things like the Gore Trigger. He can opt to go a little bit more damage-oriented in cases like this, especially since he's up 2 kills early on in this game. Eclipse into Black Cleaver is probably what I would expect Black Eyed Peas to operate here into this game, as we do see some trading in the top lane. CZ might look to freeze this wave.
Yeah, this is the kind of wave where you really want to call your jungler for help, but Black Eyed Peas is just now clearing his topside camps, so it's going to be difficult for him to walk over there and break it. I do also want to point out that Bagel has been roaming a lot. Level 4 on this Seraphine right now, a little bit behind in terms of XP, but it has allowed Smokey to get some solo XP and have a level lead over Old Man Genetics, which in terms of 80 carries, that even just like that 1 to 2 level lead can really spell the big difference in how aggressive you can be when taking trades.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the objective taking from CBR here has definitely netted them an early game tempo advantage. They're able to put that Herald in basically any lane they want. They're probably going to see that put into the bot lane here, as Black Eyed Peas does have his whole bot side up here, and he probably will be looking for a bot gank here. As the waves are going to start to get even as Old Man Genetics and Peacemaker clear out this wave here. Going to put the lane in a neutral state. I wouldn't be surprised if both junglers here will look for a 3v3 Nation.
Oh, yeah. Aggressive. The Cyclone is there. Going to get that second knockup onto Peacemaker, but he won't be able to survive with the flash. And
wow.
Stats coming through from the Braum, the Guardian, the Flash, the Unbreakable. Everything coming in to make sure that Peacemaker will survive.
Yeah, Peacemaker typing in all chat, not even close, baby, as he gets away, burning that flash, but not much else used to try and get out here, as Nation and Co had to burn their ultimates, and overall, now Nation is kind of forced to clear up here instead of going here to this bot lane, as Black Eyed Peas has the luxury of now having his Cataclysm available. Although, yes, Old Man Genetics doesn't have his ult up, I could definitely see Black Eyed Peas sticking around here in the bot lane, looking for picks onto Trudebago and Smokia with this Herald that he has, trying to propel that lead.
Yeah, this is suddenly a worrying position for Conduit Esports Phoenix to be in. We did really want to see this Wukong get on the map early, and the Caitlyn, the Seraphine, is a bottom lane that should be winning in isolation, but the problem is this lane hasn't really been isolated for most of this game. Black Eyed Peas and Nation have been making a lot of appearances in the bottom side, and despite the CS lead being in favor of Smokey, I think the lane, in terms of itemization, in terms of gold, has pretty close to evened out.
Yeah, for sure. Both these teams are relatively even in gold, despite the fact that we have a Herald and a Dragon and 2 kills up for CBR. So CBX definitely holding on and minimizing the damage that CBR have managed to do. In the early game, we see a little bit of trade in the bot lane.
Isolated away from Tuda Bagel. The Glacial Fissure is there as well. Smokey's going to get the flash away. The Encore will find 2. Trash Panda has rotated down with that teleport. They're looking to get aggressive on the Old Man Genetics, and suddenly the Sivir's the one in trouble. It won't flash away, but it will tick down. Trash Panda will find that kill, but now is stuck in 3, but does still have the Demonic Ascension. Is healing up so much. Oh, where's the anti for the Swain? It died with the Sivir. Tuda Bagel will find the kill on it to Pacemaker, and suddenly Conduit Esports Phoenix have found their way back into the bottom lane.
Yeah, and this is definitely worth noting here for CBR as a weakness in their comp. Without Sivir and without that late game that she provides, early game, you don't have a lot of damage here on this bot lane. You're basically just relying on...
So low. He's like the aggressive trade, though! Finds the kill onto Smokey, and now Tuda Bagel will fall next. Tuda Bagel, sorry, not Tuda. Not Italian. Krama's gonna find the kill onto CZI as Nation is forced to run away in that top side. Now Old Man Genetics wants to get his revenge onto Trash Panda, as that plate will fall into his pocket, but has the Sivir ult. He's on the hunt. He's looking for the damage. Trash Panda is going to get that concussive stat, but he will find the trade kill. Trash Panda gets 1 in return.
Yeah, a blunder, I feel, from CPX. If we go all the way back to them getting those kills onto the bot lane with that Swain just healing up so much, they opted to just stay in the bot lane and push out the lane instead of going for that Drake. They need to even up these objectives that they have been sorely lacking throughout this game, as Nation opting to go for that top lane gank instead and it going completely sideways, as CZ now 1-3 on this Camille, really far behind Krama, 2 levels down and nearly 40 CS behind this Mordekaiser as Camille.
Yeah, 40 CS deficit is never something you want to see when you are hitting tab and looking up towards that top side. But in the bottom lane, there is a 30 CS lead for Smokey. It's just partially evened out by the fact that Old Man Genetics has picked up a couple of kills for himself.
Yeah, for sure. Old Man Genetics really starting to come online despite those 3 deaths on this Sivir. Really starting to get strong as he is nearing his mythic spike here. He's resetting, so he'll probably get it, as Maybe not. Black Eyed Peas looking for a gank. He does not yet have the Cataclysm, so this could very well turn into a disaster if they aren't careful, as both Encore and the Gale Force are available for the bot lane of CPX.
Yeah, but important to note, this game does not have Flash. They're going to try and look for it with the Flag Dragon of the Wall. The teleport's coming in from Krama. They're looking to get aggressive. Smokey's just going to try and find the trade kill. He's looking to pick up Shutdown Gold onto Barak, but it's a 2-for-1 overall as Black Eyed Peas now 4 kills to his name. About 66% KP as now Old Man Genetics is alone in the mid lane. The Cyclone is there. The aggressive damage onto him from the Wukong. They're going to donate the kill over to Trash Panda.
Yeah, really good pick response from the side of CPX after losing their bot lane there, and it will be followed up by a Herald take from Nation. This is exactly what I've been harping on and talking about, that both of these teams need to do when they get a small little lead. They need to go for those objectives right after those picks, need to go for those objectives right after those big team fights, and they seem to be learning from their mistakes in the past 2 games as Nation is taking the Herald and Trash Panda actually doing a lot of damage on Krama.
Yeah, he's looking to get aggressive. There's the heroic entrance and the Guardian Shield as well. Krama is so difficult to kill on this Mordekaiser. Now Trash Panda, maybe the one in trouble, as the Demonic Ascension is going to heal him up a lot, but now it's pulled into the Death Realm.
Oh,
Krama,
no.
the obliterate picks him up. Now Nation the one in trouble, but Smokey is here to support his jungler. He will find the Shutdown Gold onto Black Eyed Peas, and that's so much gold for this Caitlyn. Peacemaker will find Nation, but now Peacemaker maybe on his lonesome and actually has the support of his team. He will eventually die. Maybe not. He's going to survive with a sliver of HP. And across the map is somehow an ace for CB Rangers.
Huge ace for CB Rangers here. They did not actually get the Herald. It was taken, but no one managed to pick it. Actually, I'm wrong. Nation managed to pick it up, but it doesn't look like it matters, as a really early ace like that is really bad for the side of CPX, as all of their laners are essentially struggling in some way with damage overall. Although, yes, Trash Panda is ahead. He does have that Leandri's in tow and those Boots of Swiftness for his roaming. A lot of damage is starting to come on here as Krama is being unlocked, as the Black Eyed Peas 5-1-6 on this Jarvan. The gold lead on this top side for CBR just growing by the minute. These unlikely carries for the side of Red Team just getting stronger as the game goes on.
Yeah, I also think that Black Eyed Peas is just going to go for the full damage build. You mentioned that he might go for the Black Cleaver just for like some extra damage, a little bit of survivability, but I see a second Serrated Dirk in his inventory. I wonder if we are just going to see something like the Yomu's or maybe even the Edge of Night if he really wants something defensive. Just trying to get as much damage down as possible onto the squishy backline that Conduit Esports Phoenix has drafted for themselves. And speaking of that squishy backline, I do want to point out a little disappointed in itemization. That it looks like it's going to be for True to Bagel, a Roa. In the support role, I really don't like to see that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like this team could really benefit from a Shirilia's. They're very engage heavy with things like Camille, things like Wukong. Shirilia's getting that like mini Sivir ultimate could definitely help them, or even something like a Moonstone. But I do feel like Roa is
Moonstone, Riot. There's so many options for your first item. I think Roa is a very good scaling item if you're like a mid lane Seraphine and you have the gold to back it up. But without that economy, you're not going to be able to have it in time to have those stacks really matter. Like if you pick up your Roa past like 20 minutes in the game, you're really praying that you get past that 30-minute mark and you get to that late game, because otherwise your item is practically useless.
Yeah, I mean, we can see that True to Bagel is the only player in this game that does not yet have a mythic item, as Peacemaker does have that locket of the Iron Solari here on his inventory, and it's definitely hurting. I feel like Roa just isn't the play. I 100% agree with you on this one, Brittany. As we do see the third dragon of the game start to spawn, Krama recalling almost has that teleport up, as CZ has the teleport up. So I would definitely, if this goes to a fight, both top laners are going to be able to be present for it. But if I'm CPX, I'm getting a little bit scared. I'm not sure going for this dragon is the wisest choice.
Yeah, I think you just try and make some sort of trade happen on the map. You try and take an objective bounty off of a tower mid or off of a tower top lane, and it looks like that is what they're going to do with this Rift Herald. Just try and grab the objective bounty off of this mid lane tower and make that trade for the dragon. And again, like we were talking about in game 1, this is Cloud Soul. It's not the most impactful in terms of stats as they're looking for the engaged. Peacemaker finds the Winter's Bite on the Invisible Nation, but the Cyclone knocks away Barak, not allowing any sort of engage to happen. So that on the hunt is now gone. The flash from Peacemaker now gone. on. The Glacial Fissure finds a lot of members, but Peacemaker is on his own. CZ trying to get in. Smokey finds the kill on him. Kramer now stuck in the death row with Trash Panda, who was still farming him before this demonic ascension. That's another shutdown going over to Smokey, and suddenly CBR have lost the plot. Conduit Esports Phoenix have found a lot of extra value off of the back of that play.
CPX really good disengage on the side of Trash Panda and on the side of Nation. That Cyclone ultimate was beautiful for getting Boo-Rock and Krama and Peacemaker off of him. It definitely could have been a disaster, but Black Eyed Peas might be looking for a play. He has that ultimate, but won't be able to find it here. This might be where the disadvantage, this might be where the disadvantage of a full damage Jarvan starts to come in. He is ridiculously tanky. He only has, I'm clicking on him now. Yeah, he only has 1,500 max HP on a champion like Jarvan. That's really bad, as Boo and Krama might not be enough frontline to get someone like Trash Panda, like Nation, off of the backline.
Yeah, he's also going for that Collector second item. Collector is an item that I have railed against very often in the past. If you've ever witnessed me on a broadcast, whether with Aegis or without, I've always talked about how bad Collector feels to build in general, and especially now that the crit items have updated to be 40%. If you're an 80 carry and you're going Collector second item, you better be really, really far ahead, or you are probably just going to get outscaled. Infinity Edge, and even if you're like an assassin, other lethality items are going to provide so much more value for you. Black Eyed Peas, I think with this Collector purchase, I think is going to start to set himself behind. And if you're building this Jarvan, if you're taking all of this gold from your team and you're trying to be the carry, your itemization is really important.
Yup, and we can see that both of these teams should probably just be posturing to get vision around the map. This dragon doesn't spawn for another 3 minutes, so I definitely want to see both teams just sort of chill. I want to see CPX try and play for that scaling, try and play for that swing to scale up and be the tanky monster that he has been, because Trash Panda has been putting in a lot of work this game on this swing, just being a frontliner while also maintaining and doing a lot of damage, and it just doesn't seem like anyone from CBR is able to burst him down. Old Man Genetics has not yet hit the spike for Sivir that we all know she's able to do. She needs to get a couple more items under her belt before this, before the Swain is in any kind of mortal danger.
Yeah, and especially since she has to opt for that early anti-heal, as we see also Krama and Barak picking up those early anti-heal items, just sitting on that 40%. Sivir needing to pick that up early into the Seraphine lane means that she's that much more delayed on her potential Navori. Black Eyed Peas is going to force the flash out of Trudabagel, and I think that's a fine trade. If you're playing Jarvan at this point in the game, you're taking a flash away from a squishy member. You're pretty happy with that. But yes, Sivir's delayed on that Navori Quickblade spike, which means that her damage in teamfights is going to be a lot lessened until she gets to that 2-3 item point.
Yeah, for sure. The Sivir just really starting to feel the effects of building that early Blade Executioner's Calling, really not able to get that second item. Whereas Smokiera, yes, he's 30 CS up, but you can see he's working on his third item now. He has Collector and he has Infinity Edge, two of the most expensive items in the game. Infinity Edge, really expensive. So it really says a lot when Smokiera is able to get almost 3 items, whereas Old Genetics not even able to get 2. And yeah, that Caitlyn really going to start to hit like a truck, as we do see the last Whisper for Smokiera in this game. Really going to start to do a lot of damage to Krama and Boo-Rock. And yeah, Black Eyed Peas, like I said, not a tank in this game. So frontline could really be doomed if they don't start to get something out of Smokiera soon. Maybe a flash, maybe pull in a kill or 2. But yeah, I mean,
I'm seeing for Black Eyed Peas, I'm seeing a Sheen in his inventory. Now, there are 2 non-mythic items that build out of Sheen, and I don't think we're suddenly seeing Black Eyed Peas swap over to ability power. So that's going to be an Essence Reaver if he ends up building that one full out. And that feels, again, this build from Jarvan feels so greedy. You are fully focused on one-shotting Smokey and Trudabagel because you're not going to be able to get through the health bar of any of the top side of the map, especially Trash Panda, with how tanky this Swain is going to end up being as he goes for the Abyssal Mask as a third item. And the Camille and Wukong are going to be able to outduel you just because of how much raw stats they get in terms of armor and itemization, as now CBR with this Dragon spawning are just going to immediately go towards this Dragon Soul. But I think Conduit Esports Phoenix rightly have said, okay, you're going to take Cloud Soul? Fine, you can have Cloud Soul. We're going to take the Baron, and we're going to start to accelerate our gold lead out of control.
Yeah, really good trade here, but they're taking it really slowly here as we see Black Eyed Peas has actually roamed up. It's Krama who isn't there, and Encore
This is in the pit. The Galio ulti is there. Finds a knockup onto 3. Nation is super low, but he finds the kill. The Black Eyed Peas. There's suddenly no jungler. Trudabagel taking up the damage for Smokey. He will be able to survive for just a little bit longer. He does go into the stopwatch, but that is against a Caitlyn. You will not find your way out. CZ will pick that one up, and it's 2 kills given over to Conduit Esports Phoenix for nothing for CB Rangers, except for the fact that they got that Cloud Soul thanks to Krama.
Yeah, 100%. Krama able to secure that Cloud Soul, but it doesn't seem like it'll matter much now as CPX, rightfully so, going right back on this Baron. Black Eyed Peas is going to be dead for another 7 to 5 seconds here as, yeah, Krama trying to get in here. He does have the Death Realm.
Yeah, he pulled Smokey into the Death Realm, but I think Smokey might actually be able to win this. No, he gets obliterated, deleted by this Mordekaiser. And now suddenly Mordekaiser is running a train on this Conduit Esports Phoenix. Better it's a triple kill for the Mordekaiser. It's looking like the quadra kill. Nation is in the back of the pit. He will make up the Baron, but he's the only one to have it. Krama's looking for it. It's the penta kill for Krama to pick up all the Baron buffs.
And look at mid-lane! Old Man Genetics is going mid! He's pushing it down! They might not be able to end this game, but it looks like they could! But Smokey is up for another 10 seconds. Trudabagel up for the same time, but it looks like they're going for it! They're going for the end!
Wait, Black Eyed Peas is going into the tower. Nothing matters. He got his flag down. That's the attack speed for everybody else in the map. The first inhibitor tower, the first Nexus tower will go down. Peacemaker is going to try and delay as much as possible. Smokey is looking for the kill to Old Man Genetics, but he has the spell shield, so he will be able to walk out, and that is a Nexus tower killed. And suddenly, what it looked like CB Rangers were about to throw away the game. Krama comes in, picks up his team, says, "You are not throwing this game," gets himself the Penta, takes away the Barons, locks away the game for CB Rangers.
Yeah, Krama with the lore accurate Mordekaiser here in this game, just completely 1v5'd off the back of Peacemaker here with a little bit of support. And yeah, now that's going to be huge. 10, 2, and 3 on this Mordekaiser. Absolute raid boss, level 16. 2 levels up on anyone from the side of CPX as, yeah, I don't really see how CPX are going to be able to get through Krama here as a lot of their damage comes from elongated fights. Things like the Swain who just love to drain tank. Nation probably doesn't have enough damage for it to matter, but maybe if they can get something off the back of Smokia, it could be a game. But again, it's just going to have to rely on them being able to kill Krama. It depends on who Krama decides to put into the Death Realm as the rest of his team back him up here, and a very interesting and close game still. Only 3k gold lead here, almost 30 minutes in for the side of CBR.
Yeah, this has become a very, despite the gold lead being like slightly in favor of CBR, it feels like the momentum is all theirs as Smokey, Trudabagel, you are out of position. Black Eyed Peas gets the ulti down onto Smokey, and he doesn't have the net, he doesn't have flash, he is just locked down, deleted, and that's the 80 carry away from Conduit Esports Phoenix. That is the Sivir ulti burn as well, and they're just going to look to, with that pick, immediately rotate back up to the top side of the map, take this tower away. We were a little, initially, like, over the course of this game, we were a little worried about the itemization from Black Eyed Peas. But I guess if your Mordekaiser is 10 and 2 and you really are just the ultimate bot for Galio and for Mordekaiser to get access to the backliners, it doesn't really matter what you build. They're going to do the work for you.
Yeah, I digress. I guess we were wrong here in Black Eyed Peas' build. It really doesn't matter what he builds, especially when that Galio ultimate is available to you. Just creating that absolute death box for anyone who steps inside that Cataclysm. Smokey is just not able to get out of there without any flash. Even if he did have flash, it probably spelled doom as CBR now have 2 inhibitors here on the base of CPX, just looking to apply more pressure as the game goes on. Really just putting that gold lead, putting their foot on the gas here in this late game, in game 3, when it matters. Krama managed to step up, get that pentakill, and pull his team to what seems like a pretty good victory for CBR.
Yeah, and especially because Smokey can't fight Krama in the Death Realm, and he hasn't paid his taxes. There is no QSS in his inventory. He's looking for the Bloodthirster as that last item, and maybe that will give him a better chance against the Mordekaiser, but I don't think that's going to give him the win that he needs. He needs to be able to instantly get himself out of the Death Realm and save himself from the Mordekaiser, but if he doesn't pay his taxes and he doesn't have that QSS for either the Braum stun or the Mordekaiser ulti, whichever one comes first, really, there's suddenly no real damage from Conduit Esports Phoenix. You have the Wukong who's on 2 items, but it's a Wukong. He's not going to be providing the most damage at this point in the game, and your Swain has opted for Abyssal Mask as a 3rd item, which is going to help in terms of like some itemization and some damage, but it's a tank item. It's not the demonic embrace that you were hoping to see out of him. Suddenly, Swain is lacking in damage. Caitlyn, if she gets pulled into the Death Realm, isn't going to be able to put out any damage into this Mordekaiser. And now, CBR, realizing this, are just going to push down the rest of the base. They realize that there's no real threat for this Mordekaiser.
Yeah, CPX zoning out with those Caitlyn traps, doing whatever they can to make sure that CBR can't push to get a 3rd inhibitor here. As we do see the lanes, we see the super minions pushing in here on the top side. As they breach the base, they're going to have to send someone being CZ to try and defend it, as they're stretched incredibly thin, as CBR just applying pressure here in this bot lane, not letting up, putting 4 members in the bot, as Bo3 with that ultimate is able to go into another lane. Trash Panda going in.
Looking to get aggressive onto Kramer. They're going to pull him back. He still has access to the Death Realm. Who's he going to pull in? Who's he going to look for? He gets punched up to lead it. Before he gets Death Realm. Shutdown goes over to Smokey, and he's still alive. Black Eyed Peas is going to get picked up as well. Old Man Genetics is getting down the auto attacks. He's so huge on the Sipper. He pulls him back in the team fight. It's a triple kill for Old Man Genetics. He hit that 2-item power spike, and suddenly Smokey can't find the damage onto Old Man Genetics. CZ can't find his way into it, and it's an open nexus. Barack is going to flash forward, knock down CZ. It's Smokey versus the world, but Old Man Genetics doesn't want to give him a chance. He's just going for the nexus. He's turned his Smokey. Smokey finds the kill. He finds the nexus is open, but Conduit Esports Phoenix are still alive in this game.
Still alive, still breathing, a pull of 1 beat per minute here for CPX, managing to stay alive in this game. And yeah, just a really interesting fight turned into an even slaughter. Well, kind of.
Elder Dragon's alive, and Conduit Esports Phoenix have the respawns, but the problem is their base is in shambles. They have 2 inhibitors down to deal with. But if they can make it to this Elder, if they can make something happen on it, they can start a comeback. This game is not over just yet. The gold lead is close, and we've seen so many steals happen in this series before. Who's to say another one doesn't happen here?
Yeah, and CZ does have that teleport. The Trash Panda does have that teleport. They can go in for this fight if they so choose. Yes, CBR do have that soul, and yes, they are probably more ahead on paper, but we've seen crazier things happen in this series. It's been probably the most back and forth series we've ever casted here, Brady, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of action here. Nation might be caught out.
Nation needs to find his way into the pit. Brock is on.
Oh my god!
Smoke is gonna pick up the kill, but Old Man Genetics is just running down the base. CZ has to beat him in a 1v1. I don't think he has the time. Trash Panda is gonna recall to try and get back to the base. Old Man Genetics kills CZ. The Nexus is open. I don't think this fight is gonna matter. Kramer's gonna find Nation, which means there's no steal available with the smite. Kramer will drop the Zonies, but it doesn't matter. Old Man Genetics runs it down the front of the base, and CBR are gonna find a win, take 1st place.
What a 3rd game to close out one of the most intense series I have ever seen and close out our regular season casts. Thank you all so much for sticking with us through this cast, as we have a new champion here in the industrial complex, and it is CB Rangers with a convincing 2-1 over CPX.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous way to finish out that game. I'm looking at my notes trying to figure out, like, oh yeah, who's like the big player of that game? Because Kramo with the pentakill in that game 3, really making sure that his team didn't lose the value on that Baron. If he doesn't get all 5 kills there, suddenly CPX have a chance to like make some tower pushes happen, make some silent plays happen. But because he picked up literally every single Baron buff, there was nothing for them to do. They couldn't actually find their way into the game. Barak with some beautiful ultimate engages and just stalling as much time as possible, somehow beating CZ in a 1v1 in the mid lane. We'll talk about that probably at some point, but Old Man Genetics as well on the Sivir, managing to make so much damage happen in the team fight when he was delayed on his itemization. He opted for that 1st item, Executioner's Calling, and was still able to output so much DPS in the team fights. An incredible series from both teams, and CBR just managed to find the all-important game 3 and take the series away.
Yeah, definitely do want to highlight CPX in this series here. Yes, they did lose, but I want to highlight all of their players for doing ridiculously well in a game and in a series that took a really long time. We've been here for nearly 3 hours. The mental fortitude to be able to play 3 games across 3 hours is commendable across any kind of result of the series. So definitely want to highlight CZ, Nation, the Trash Panda, Smokia, Trudebagle for all sticking with this series, playing a hell of a game. You all had amazing plays, all had amazing picks, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do here in this playoffs run as we do get in here. And they also made it very abundantly clear that they are a team to be reckoned with. They were a team that almost took down a CB team, which is something most teams really can't say they have done, right? The CB teams are infamous. They're the tournament favorites, and I definitely think CPX should walk away from this series relatively happy at the fact that they can put a finger up against such a dominating team.
Yeah, an incredibly impressive performance, I would say, from both teams, but everybody knows the CB names in the AGL right now. Hydra and Rangers are the teams to beat in both conferences, and CB Rangers have put a stamp on that in terms of what exactly they want to show going into playoffs. And again, with that win, they're going to take sole possession of first place. Conduit Esports Phoenix will take second place, but that is a respectable second place, given how stacked the top of this conference is. We are finished tonight for the AGL, so I want to thank you all so much for joining us for an incredible 3-game series. Thank you, Quacks, for showing up and being here as my color caster. Thank you, Zach, for the production on the backside. We are going to be raiding. I'm not sure exactly who right now, but I'm getting word from Hyvar that we are going to be sending a raid over to somebody else. So stick with us. We're going to watch some more League of Legends. We'll be right with you. Don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.